Good evening and welcome back for another episode of The Reload. Joining me as always is Guz and Xenox tonight. How are you guys doing?
I'm
Firstly,
great.
You've completely done me over with the cropping here.
Have I?
Yeah.
Well,
hang on. I know we're live now, but can you fix me up a bit?
uh,
Stay here.
no.
Yeah,
tell you
look,
what,
Raven, I'm
you-
going really
you
well
move.
tonight. Great to be here. I'm not going to be too picky about my cropping. I'll just move if I actually need to because I'm not lazy like Xenox.
Look, I will admit, I have definitely butched Guz's cropping because I see his green active box around himself when he talks from Discord. But
Testing. Oh, yeah.
I think it's going to be helpful for viewers to know when Guz is talking because sometimes that's a little bit difficult to discern.
Jeez.
All right, then I guess.
I see.
Look, well,
I would just move, but this is about as far as my microphone goes over, right? Like, the boom arm is like all the way over there,
perfect.
and it's like really stretched out. I could just do this, I guess. How are we?
Yeah.
How are we? How's my lovely
Perfect.
co-host?
Please do that. Look, I'm good. I was gonna ask you guys how you found last week. Obviously, it was the first week of Oceanic Nationals. How did you find it all?
Yeah, a lot of fun. It was, I mean, our night, Wednesday night, me and Xenox was probably a little bit more as we predicted going into that. I mean, we'll dive into that a little bit later, but Friday night in particular threw up a lot of close games, interesting results. So yeah, it was good to jump back in.
Yeah, I mean, it was fun. Good little Rainbow Six week kickstarted with the reload into Oceanic Nationals. Ultimately, we had most games that were predicted, unless your name was Ducky, in which case apparently his week must have been a hell of a surprise. No, it was good fun, really good fun, and I'm very excited for what is now the second episode of the reload. I guess you could say we've reloaded.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that the puns have already started, mate. But look, you mentioned Ducky. I'm happy to say that he's going to be joining us on the show again tonight, and he will be joining us quite soon. So that's going to be very exciting. We're going to give him an opportunity to try and get some more credit, I believe is the pun we used on socials. Predictions, as you said, didn't quite go his way, so I think he's going to want some retribution.
Yeah, I mean, his predictions were bad, but look, he probably pulled something out of nowhere like he did last season, so he's definitely something to keep an eye on.
Hang on. I've been told by my fiance that your mic is hella low, by the way. Is this confirmed?
I
being
would
stitched
love
up?
I would love to hear extra feedback on that from the chat, but I can definitely turn you up if there is an issue with your volume. For me, you sound balanced, but maybe it's coming through on stream weird.
We need a new host. Where's Rob?
Unbelievable. Look,
Bring
you're
back
stitching me
Rob.
up already, Xenox, so I'm not sure how to feel, mate.
I didn't stitch you up.
Alright, well, moving on. I'm just going to say that tonight's show is going to be a bit different to last week for those that did join in for our first episode. Because, of course, we do have some games to recap, whereas last week was very much just previewing everything. We have had some games, so we will have highlights of those games. We'll be talking about the results, that kind of thing, as well as moving on to previewing the upcoming week with Playday 3 starting tomorrow night. And yeah, there's been some good results, so I'm keen to dive in. One highlight in particular last week was definitely Wildcard versus Noble. Ended up with quite a surprise result, which we are going to be breaking down very shortly. And of course, we are going to be bringing on Ducky. But before we do that, we will have some insight into the winning moment from Noble and Wildcard. We do have a comms video that was uploaded by Nico. So enjoy that, and we'll be back on the other side.
Yep.
Yeah,
You said Grey's clear.
Throwing it out now.
Yeah, one Grey's still. The Grey was clear, but I haven't joined in. You want to open up? Want to revert to a bait?
Well, at least he did.
Nice.
Nice, sick. That was
Only one offside, okay?
Wait, the fake guy.
Yeah.
Keep
Let's
watching.
clear.
Can make me.
Yeah, I'm planning sinks, playing sinks.
Yeah, I have your prep
Put
on.
on.
Hold me.
Nothing prep.
Sinks on me.
Kite dead.
Yeah, last sinks. Alright.
No, red.
We love the time I still fucking win! I can play our let's go, baby! Victory stream! Hey!
Fish, never fucking disregard.
Alright, welcome back. It was a great highlight video that we had from Nico just at the end of their game. Some pretty interesting team comms. If you haven't heard team comms before, as you can tell, it gets very hectic and very loud. But joining us now is Ducky. How are you tonight, Ducky?
Look, I'm glad to be back as the permanent guest for the reload. I've officially appeared on more shows than a co-host Manic, so I think I'm taking his position. And I can't wait to retweet the graphic next week, Raven, when you eventually say that I'm on again. But yeah, in all seriousness, I've been all right. A little bit under the weather, but you know, we push on. There was some wonderful Siege to keep me company throughout the week. Obviously, the games were good. My tips were bad, but we'll talk about that in a tick. And hopefully, this week I can make my way back up the table and hopefully spark a little redemption arc.
Could we really not get anyone else on?
Jeez.
What, were you just afraid of me taking the limelight again, man? Like, did you want a show where you could shine? Like,
Well, I mean, look, firstly, yes. Secondly, I thought we could maybe get someone who can predict how the games are going to play out, like a player,
Jeez.
you know, someone with
Jeez.
knowledge.
I was gonna say, like, you know, the other guy on top of the tips right now is casting, so like we can't really bring him on.
We don't want that guy
And,
anyway, right?
and the other guy who's on top of the tips?
Oh,
You're already
here we
here,
go. Here we go.
Hold on, mate. Can you just flex for us a little bit? Can you show us? Yeah, there we
Oh,
go.
gee whiz. Never do that again. Oh.
This is definitely going to be
It's
a moment
all
that we
in
clip.
jest. It's all in good fun. I love Ducky. Okay, he loves me. Right.
This is
More
gonna-
than
might-
you would ever expect.
I might have paid him off to throw a couple of predictions. Don't know that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what happens.
Apparently, that's how it looked. Like, if you look at the leaderboard, yeah, it can look like that. But no, it's just me being a bit bold and a bit rash in the first week.
Look, I think this is going to be a great moment to come back to, maybe closer to the end of the season when Xenox's position is potentially flipped on the predictions ladder.
Oh,
What? Listen,
I mean,
I wasn't even being toxic, okay? I'm reading the run of show. It says, remind people who Ducky is and what he does. And that's exactly what I did. I reminded
He's a
people
guy who
what
watches
he
Siege and
does.
can't analyze it.
Whoa.
That's who I am,
Jeez.
apparently.
Shots
Look,
That's
fired.
all I'm gonna
Xenox,
say, is for 6 Masters, I also started on the bottom, and look where that ended up. So
Oh, look, big talk, mate.
yeah,
Okay, I'm keen to start doing some recapping. You guys keen to get into that?
Yep.
yeah.
The
Let's
Ducky
rip it off like a
bashing-
let's rip it off like a band-aid.
The Ducky
Alright.
Get
bashing
into the
went
fun
on long
stuff.
enough.
Well, first things first, for people to get a lot more context, we do have some highlights all from last week's Playday on the Wednesday. So we'll have that video up and then we'll be back to talk about it all right after that.
It works. In this case, Cutie going for the shots
got
underneath
the
and does
down.
get bounced. He got the
Can he
down.
revive? Can he revive? He might be able to
can.
revive himself here on the Zofia, the only operator that can pick themselves up. Bouncin has managed to somehow pull this off. Cutie now needs to retake the site. Bouncin is on a slither of HP, so Cutie only needs to hit a singular shot, and he might even be able to long arm it. Can Bouncin disrupt this? I don't think he will. Cutie's going to stick it. I don't think Bouncin can get the angle. He won't be able to get there in time, and what a crazy round that was. Okami will get their 4th straight, but that was in one hell of a fashion.
Looks over to Red Stairs, just backs out Kennel's wall just to gain their composure. Oh, no, Speck, what are you doing? Oh, no, that ain't it. You can still salvage the round. You got 16 seconds on your feet, Jack Dad. He's just testing you. Gets him back up. Needs to get the diffuser down. Oh, Bouncing gets Jack Dad. Speck is just bouncing off the walls right now against bouncing balls. He's not going to win the round. Oh, he would love his time back again, guys. Extraordinarily well for Knight so far. Dyna's going to get hot shot out from the window, who was repelling. Fast taken very low. Does have the diffuser in hand. 16 seconds down to the final moments of this round. God Legion with just a pop onto Josh. Producer gets God Legion back immediately. 1v2. Now it's 0v2. Knights, that was much better for their bar cocktail defense. Standout. Feels like tonight the trend has been the debutants doing extraordinarily well. Unfortunately, I put the Mozzie on him there as Vast will take him out. Josh, though, with one, can get a second one. That pun might be coming up very shortly if he can find a triple kill. He's usually well known for being able to get them, and Knights win the round. A bit of a slam dunk from Josh, just like Chris Bosch.
big from Josh in this round, but God Legion inside of the site, no less, is able to find a pick. Digital as well. God Legion still popping off. The Knights just not clearing that position, leaves it all in the hands of Hayward, but there's nothing he can do. And
Unless Sogs and Nate can find a way to get 2 kills apiece.
Vinny, Nate, hello? I'm not sure what Nate was doing. He just ran into him and
When it eventually pushed down, but it's Angler who in fact got him. Vince has found a double kill though, pushing in on now through Freezer. And Diesel can actually get this diffuser down, and all of a sudden it's a 3 versus 3. Diffuser, they're going to be stopped. And Alpha are going to win the round because of it. Remaining, it's go time for Wildcard.
Sogs with the wide swing, that's 2. Oh, almost gets a 3rd with the pistol, but somehow Wildcard have evened it out to a 2-on-2. But look at the time. Only a couple of seconds left, and the plant will need to be stuck. Geo needs to cover it. He needs to find 2 picks. Oh, he almost unpicks at the wrong time, but he still manages to collect Mims. The refrag, though, is there from Hills. Can he find the second? No. Hills so close to closing out the round. But Wildcard again. Just edge out on top. All laundry, that opens up the round massively, but those footholds to his left could pose a problem, but that doesn't matter. He still pushes through and manages to find a pick, make it 2 in fact. Make it 3. That's a clean round from Alapho. What a way to kick off their attack.
18 seconds remaining. Like you said, 2 on 4. Very important that Milo can find someone very early on, or Nico does get 1, but immediately Todd and Oda will get Oscar and Nico out of the game. And Ferox have got a lead. It's early, it's 2-1, but it's a lead.
Quite there, there's a goo mine, but what's that going to do? They need to try and rush the planter, but Todd, he can just plug the door.
It's a timing game. Who's going to win this one? Molosca, President, both load. Oh my days! President's picked up a double though, gets Todd and Sushi. That's the round. Noble are going to take the half 4-2. And Derpe finds the triple kill. President coming up clutch as well towards the back end of that. Get the execution. Nico's also very low, so it will be difficult to see him pushing in onto the side. Oscar with the diffuser, 28 seconds. Peek around the corner. Sushi goes on the offense and is able to eliminate Fisho guy. Nazgul over involved. Trying to get involved as well, but it's now a triple kill for Nico. And Molosca finds a double to win the round for Noble, and they've got match point. Ferox should be fuming that they let that one slip away.
A massive round there from Nico. Not.
So there it goes. That was the Wednesday Playday from last week. As you can see, there was a lot of cool stuff that happened, and also a lot of crazy stuff. Some of it a bit unbeknownst to us what was actually going on.
Look, you gotta like, not necessarily question it, but you know, like, sanity check needs to happen sometimes. But the action was pretty good regardless. Like, it's always exciting when things don't go as planned.
Yeah.
And we've just
definitely.
lost someone.
Yeah, someone just dropped from.
Xenox is gone.
He's
gone.
Xenox is having a. Xenox is having a banger.
He's having a moment tonight. First it was his lighting, then it was his banner, then it was his mic. Like, what else is gonna go wrong?
Is that him in chat? Yes, he's net dropped. All right, well, he will be back. We're just gonna push on. I'm not gonna bother fixing the cameras because when he'll pop back in, it'll just like he never left.
They'll right themselves.
Exactly. So
at least the two of you are looking fine. Like, I can like scoot. Like, which way do I have to roll? I have to roll like this way. There we go. That's better.
It's like just poking your head into a window. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hello.
All right. Well, first up was the Rhythm Okami game, and I mean the result didn't really go a way that we weren't expecting. But Rhythm did play pretty well in the end for this match.
Yeah, as you mentioned, result went the way that we were anticipating. Of course, we did have the storyline of Specker jumping back in first official in what has felt like forever. Probably felt like forever for him as well. And ended up playing quite well. I think he was, second-rated player, Siege GG, so that's always a pretty good start for him. I mean, he did have that one slip-up in the highlights package where he TK'd, I think it was Jack Daddy, so a slight slip-up there, but I mean, that was one of the very few slip-ups during the course of that match. Rhythm were just outclassed in the end, and it looked like Okami's the whole way through.
Yeah, but I think the fact that like there were like moments of glimpses of like promise from Rhythm in that game, and I think like when we get around to talking about Friday's game against Elevate, like we can definitely build on that more. Like, this is not the Rhythm or the Kanga that got belted by every team except one in Six Masters last season. This is a Rhythm that could actually potentially contest for a top 6 spot, as crazy as it sounds. And as much as I still think that is quite a dream run for them to avoid relegation and make it into the playoffs, but there's potential for them.
Yeah, look, I totally agree. And it's actually, when I was watching this game, this Rhythm Okami game, there were a few rounds that Rhythm were set up to win that round in that first half. I honestly believe that just a couple of things, if they'd gone differently, Rhythm would have had a 4-2 half on a clubhouse attack, and that would have been pretty great. It's not really like a bad position to be in at all, and I think it could have really changed the outcome of the game, because obviously when you have a half lead, that can give you some extra confidence as well, as opposed to being behind and having to think about that clawback. So look, I was really impressed with how they played against Okami. As you said, their game on Friday was also fantastic, but in particular that game against Okami just being the season opener, it was great just to see them come out with some confidence and actually some precision behind a lot of what they were doing.
I mean, there was people, I'm not going to name them, but it could have been me, that said that it could have potentially been a 7-0, and I was grateful that it actually proved, like, it says 7-3 on the scoreline. If you look back at the KDs at the end of the game, it's not too flashy, but that's a 3 rounds that Rhythm deserved to win. And I think it's a good sign for them that if they can contest that those top 4 teams somewhat. Like, they don't even have to like take many rounds off them. If they take 3, 4, 5 rounds off them, that could potentially be enough confidence building for them to take down a bottom 4 team.
Yeah, the only other thing I'd really highlight in terms of stats would be entries. That was something that Rhythm struggled throughout the night. Particularly Leb, for example, went 1-3 on entries, and he's typically as man is back, I can readjust. Typically a player that most recently has been sort of transitioning into more of a frag heavy role for that team. So I think hopefully they can go back to the drawing board, work on those entries, get that fixed up, and then they should be in a better position. I'm not sure what the stats were, again, reflective to Friday night, so maybe that is something that was polished up. We'll have to wait and see, but yeah, hopefully they can keep an eye on that in the future.
Well, Xenox is back. Welcome back, mate.
Welcome back, mate.
Oh, sorry, I was just mesmerized by Gaz there for a second. Where are we up to?
Didn't miss you. But...
We're talking about Rhythm.
Just about to talk about Wildcard.
Yeah,
Rhythm and Okami.
Is there anything you want to add to that game?
I think Okami won 7-3. It was an
Good reading comprehension, mate.
Expected victory. Expected victory. They did the job they had to do, and really probably didn't, like, seriously here for just 2 seconds, probably didn't give us much of an indication as to where they're going to be this season, because 7-3 is a bit of that. Don't know. Need to see more.
Okay, great. I love that summary. All right, we can move on to wildcard LFO then. Now this was I was a little bit surprised, because I mean I thought LFO would be more competitive, but it was still a 7-4 scoreline, which isn't terrible. But wildcard looked pretty good in this match, at least last Wednesday.
Are we just going to throw it to me because I have a bone to pick with this match, because this was the big throw of my predictions this week? Look,
yeah, it
was a rough night for LFO. I think the 4 rounds that they got isn't actually indicative of how much like wildcard rolled them. Like, I think wildcard were completely dominant throughout the entire game. But you know, there is hope in this LFO squad, but they are looking a bit shaky with Nate in the lineup. Like, it's not as consistent as it was last season, and there's still some growing pains. Nate's currently sitting at the bottom of the player rankings when you look at it stats wise, and he's still got 5 games to work himself into that roster, like 5 officials plus however many scrims they've been playing. And there's still time, but for them to come out the bat against a team that, yeah, it's wildcard, they're always going to be a hard opposition. They're the defending champions, but this is also a team that in 3 of their last 4 maps that they've played against them in officials, LFO has beaten them. So it was a worrying trend that if this was the team that was like, if wildcard like had LFO as their kryptonite and LFO just pulled out, like, it wasn't an impressive map, it does leave me a bit worried for when they face some of the mid-table competition who they actually struggled against in Six Masters.
Yeah, 100% wild card. I would have to agree. Quite dominant throughout the entirety of the night. Vincier as well. Well, Vinny is more commonly known, of course. Jumped into this roster, first official, or at least first Oceanic Nationals game in this roster. Played exceptionally well. Top fragged for the team and had a pretty significant impact in most of the rounds. Well, I say that his cost was actually 64%, but when he did show up, he went big. But I mean, I don't think he really necessarily had to do a whole lot because it was a well-rounded performance, and we've come to expect that from Wildcard. LFO just not as well connected to be able to bring that to the table, and they were shut down with basically everything that they tried to throw at them.
I think that for me, LFO right now, as we stand after the first week, and I know there's only just Playday 1 that we're speaking about, but to me, they're holding that relegation position.
Yeah.
Will they be there when it comes to the very end of the season? Who knows? Hard to say. But right now, they hold that spot. 7-4. It's not horrible against a team like Wildcard, and LFO might just be a team that takes a few weeks to get going. The problem is it's not a very long season, and you're already 0-2, so they're gonna have to find a win. Well, they're gonna have to turn things around pretty quickly, I think, to get out of that relegation spot. You look at the rest of the teams there. Obviously, Rhythm, you hate to say it, but they're pretty much a lock for bottom 2, just where they're at as a team. And you look at what I consider the two other teams, along with LFO, that are just fighting to probably avoid relegations, which is Elevate, Ferox, and LFO. And right now, I've probably seen a bit more from Elevate and Ferox, and that's where it stands. Obviously, it's tough going. Wildcard's a really, really strong team. But they've got a lot on their plate this season, that's for sure. LFO, it's maybe not going to be as exciting as Six Masters was for them.
I think the one thing that LFA has got working for them though is like off this first week, they had probably the hardest week that you could ever ask for when you play against Wildcard and Pittsburgh Knights, who were the two teams that were in the final of the six mini major in August. So when you look at it that way, like 0-2 is a bit whatever. I think they're down like 9 rounds when you look at the round diff. But yeah, they even when you put aside the fact that it's the two best teams in Oceania, disputedly, that they came up against, they still looked like they weren't firing on all cylinders. And when you're only considering a full week season, you need to be firing on all cylinders from week 1. And if not, you really need to get a fire on your ass for week 2.
Yeah, and the one thing that was most worrying for me probably in that match was some of the LFO attacks that were brought to the table. We saw Wildcard, which I didn't expect them to head us over towards that mining site, mining dining, or mining fireplace, I think it's officially called. And I mean, you could just see LFO. Every time we were spectating someone, they would just crouch walking around the map, a little bit confused and disjointed. It threw them off. They weren't able to adapt. I don't think that defense was beaten by Noble on Friday. It may have been, I can't quite recall, but either way, they looked a lot more confident in trying to at least take that defense down. So LFO maybe just lacking a little bit in that adaptation department and not quite sure what to do when that curveball is thrown at them. And we do see the teams that are able to adapt like that to those curveballs. They're the ones that tend to thrive a little bit more, like your wildcard types. So something to keep in the back of the mind for them, I think.
And that was the point you just raised. That was something that Enigma spoke about, their coach. He spoke about that in the interview afterwards, that their comms weren't great and things just weren't clear for them and they were struggling to adapt. And I think that's generally been the theme for them. To bring on Ducky's point as well, I also agree, just from appearances, it doesn't look like Nate is fitting that cleanly into his new role. Maybe communication-wise and teamwork-wise, it might not be so bad, but I think especially for a role like the smoke role, it's really important to be excelling on that, because like that can really win you rounds. Like if you have a competent, solid smoke player holding people off site, delaying plants, denying plants, all that kind of stuff, it really elevates your performances. And I just felt like, especially in LFO's defenses, Nate just seemed like he was struggling. And look, he's still new to the roster, so fair enough. But like we've highlighted, it's a short season. It's not like you have a whole lot of time to get comfy and then start winning some games. Like if you take 4 games to start really picking it up, I'd say that's basically too late at that stage because you've only got 3
Yeah.
left.
I like the break even to get into playoffs is like 3 wins, I think, or 2 wins. Like I think 2 wins basically get you most of the way into playoffs. 3 wins definitely secures you playoffs. So if you're leaving it to the last, like if you go 0-4 into the final 3 game days, you need to win the majority of your games from there. It's a lot of pressure.
Yeah, huge. Cool. Shall we head into Elevate and Knights? Because that was a pretty good game.
Yes, it was. It's the battle of the R6 share teams, of course, recently announced. PK in Tier 2, Elevate Tier 3, which is really exciting for those teams. But in terms of the matchup, that was quite close. I think, again, the result was what we probably expected, Knights edging out in the end. But I was personally pretty surprised or pretty happy to see Elevate right up there. I was expecting it to probably be a little bit more one-sided than it was in the end. That said, it really came down to Cafe and the attacks. We saw PK win 2 attacks and Elevate only win the single one, which was basically the trend across a lot of the Cafe matches in the first sort of week. So maybe Elevate need to go back to the drawing board a little bit on their attacks and try and secure a couple more of those.
This was at least from Playday 1, I think the only matchup where the snowball predictions really deviated between Elevate and Knights.
Yeah.
And
I
I
don't
was
know
a
what you're
little
talking
bit
about,
surprised
mate.
by that.
The predictions were
Can't-
deviating when wildcard
Mate,
and LFO.
You were
Yeah, but you don't
deviating
count.
every
You don't count.
You
so
don't
it doesn't matter.
count.
Jeez.
I was a
You're
little bit
not an
surprised to
expert.
see that, though. Obviously, I did vote for Knights to win this match.
So did I, Xenox, because we're actually like really
we
good.
go.
I don't know what the other two didn't, did they? So that was a bit
No, we both had Elevate.
bit disappointing for the other two
Yeah.
casters. But
I think it is totally justified by the fact it was a 5-7 in the end. I think that makes it seem like it wasn't that much of like an out there pick. Right?
I
Yes
feel
and
like this
no,
was a
but-
this was a 5-7 that definitely could have gone way more in Pittsburgh's favor.
Yeah, Knights definitely were the better team here. I thought that I was just a bit surprised because obviously Elevate ended up finishing bottom 2 in 6 Masters. So while that was a surprise that they did finish bottom 2 in 6 Masters, and I think I can agree with everyone here in saying that we all thought they would improve here in Oceanic Nationals, I didn't have them beating the team that literally made the finals and went a pretty long distance in the 6 Masters finals. So yeah, 7-5, probably an unfair score. I actually would say that should have been like 7-4 would have been a more realistic scoreline here. Elevate weren't horrible by any means. I just think Knights, a couple of rounds just weren't as clean. And you got to remember, of course, them, like a lot of other teams, have got a new player, Sagion, who I actually thought was really, really, really good.
He was sharp, yeah.
Yeah, very sharp.
really, really, really sharp player. Just slots straight in. And who was it? Joshua Juicy has taken on the roles of Strider. I can't remember who it was. I could even be wrong with that, but it's not Sagion. So Sagion's coming in just playing his own game, which I think is really good for him and Knights for that matter. But Elevate didn't necessarily do anything wrong, and I don't, at the moment, have them in the bottom 2. I think they'll be able to find wins against the likes of LFO, Rhythm, and be able to stay above them.
The only concerns that I have for Elevate right now is, especially after the first week, if you take in both game days, and we're gonna get to Friday shortly, but it was very much for them the God Legion show, and I've said this about a couple of teams in the past, and it was something that showed up in Akami's gameplay as well. But if you have to rely on 1 or 2 players to stand up for you and try and break big impact rounds off the back of their own frags, we obviously can't get a look into what it looks like behind the scenes with comms and support and that kind of thing. But I feel like if this trend continues of Elevate being the God Legion show with like Worthy chipping in sometimes, it could be slightly worrying.
It's interesting because, and definitely something we can talk more about once we get to Friday's games, because this is where I really picked up on some things. I kind of disagree with that. It's definitely great for the team that that God Legion is stepping up, because I said on broadcast, I felt like that's what they were missing last season. It just felt like no one was being a very consistent, solid fragger for that team. It was like shared among them, but not in like a way that allowed them to excel. I agree though that it's not good for teams to be relying on 1 or 2 fraggers. It's not a like sustainable model. But I actually saw a lot of good things on the Friday game that made me think that it's not just like the one-man show. But yeah, we can definitely get into that.
There were some good things on the Friday game. Like, yeah, I'm sure we'll talk about it.
So Ferox Noble was the last one for the Wednesday, which was also quite a banger in the end, being a 5-7. Pretty close game. Ferox being another team that we all thought was going to be bottom 2 for sure. Again, Friday ended up being a very exciting day for them as well, which we'll talk about. But even a 5-7 against Noble, considering how well Noble has gone in the first couple of days, that's also quite a good scoreline if I was Ferox.
Yeah, I mean, Ferox definitely could have, I think, won this game. Like, I think if their defense half was just a little bit stronger, like, they definitely had a chance of taking the map off Noble, which, when you think about it, the fact that they could have come in to the end of this week 2-0 is rather remarkable in that sense.
Yeah, I get the impression that Ferox probably could have taken it as well. Noble were a little bit sketchy in a couple of those rounds, like particularly some of their defenses. They didn't seem to be adapting enough to the sort of swing meta that we're seeing at the moment. They were holding angles for the majority of their holds, which in the current build is obviously a little bit volatile. And they, I mean, I was even speaking to Milo about this last night, the fact that even he said that they failed to adapt to that, which was a little bit concerning because Team Ferox, their attacks for the most part were also quite one-dimensional, where they were sort of all just heading from the one direction. So if it was like, say, a stat defense, basically the entirety of the team was just pushing Master Bedroom, no one from the other side like AVG. And it was likewise defending AVG, everyone was just pushing Study. So I think Noble probably could have done a better job in shutting down, particularly those attacks from Ferox. But in the end, they did just scrape the win. So I'm sure they'll be happy with the 3 points, because that's what matters in the end.
Win's a win.
I originally had Ferox actually as my tip. This was a while ago. This was even before the Noble announcement. I just felt like new, fresh lineup, maybe catch Melon Cat off guard when they were Melon Cat. But as soon as Noble came in the picture, I very quickly changed my tip. I just couldn't see them losing under the new banner. And going back to this game, is when it started, Ferox were the ones that were coming out of the blocks much better than Noble. And I think I even said on broadcast at one point to guys, I was like, hey, maybe I should have kept my pick here. I should have backed myself in. But ultimately, Noble's class did shine through towards the end. And 7-5 is probably a very apt scoreline. You know, if we talk about Wildcard LFO scoreline, the Knights Elevate scoreline, I'd say 7-5 was about right. And it gave us, I think, a window into the Friday results for Ferox there.
Yeah, I mean, Ferox were ahead at one point, like 5-4, I think, before they lost like 3 of the last 4 rounds to eventually drop them out, or something, or like it was 4-4 or something. So there was definitely like potential for them after their attack half to like claw it back on defense, and you know, maybe they did just lose their composure nearing the end as they started getting back and they tied the scoreline. But I think it was a really promising look. It was a wonderful day out for Nazgul and Oda. It was a wonderful debut for them in Oceanic Nationals. I think that in and of itself is exciting for Ferox when your 2 new players are coming in and having an impact on their first official out. That can only mean good things as the season drags on.
Well, I mean, yeah, Nazgul and Oda were 1 and 2 respectively in the Siege GG ratings, which, I mean, of course, numbers don't mean everything, but the fact that Nazgul, for example, had like a 92% cost, so that's of course one major action in 92% of the rounds. So it's probably like one round that he didn't do anything.
One of the 12.
That's well and truly above any of the Noble GG lads. So promising signs there, and that was on Ashen Jaeger apparently. I don't remember Nazgul playing a whole lot of Ashen Jaeger, but actually no, he was playing Jaeger because he kept running out on poor old Derp. Oh, Derp had a really rough attack. That's
what I was gonna bring up, and that was there's 2 sides to that, right? Like, part of me thinks that Ferox were able to get away with a lot more than they maybe should have on their defenses in that game, and at the same time, it made me gravely concerned, like that they were allowing that to happen so frequently. Like, you can't constantly have people dying to run out to spawn peaks in this situation. Like, once it happens once, you should be hyper alert. Like, you think about all the possible runouts from your spawn, you get the drones in the right locations. Like, if you're serious about being a top team, I think that's a really important thing to get down pat. Of course, on game day, things get a bit chaotic, and sometimes you do slip up. But yeah, I think he ended up getting, was it maybe 3 runouts of spawn kills in their half,
was.
at least half the rounds.
I think he secured at least 2 onto derp. I can't remember any others though. But it could be 3, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, like, that was a little bit concerning for me. And at the same time, as we were saying, or Ducky said, like, with Elevate, right? Like, it's dangerous if it's the one-man show. This is another facet of teams that can be really unsustainable in that, like, if they're getting, like, real aggressive plays and risky things that are paying off, when they don't pay off, like, well, what happens to the team then? So, I think it could be something that's interesting as the season progresses, whether they don't get away with some of those risks anymore because people are so aware of how they play now. Maybe that starts to cause them to not get as many rounds, or maybe struggle a bit more in matches.
Yeah, but I feel like on Friday things were a bit different for them. And off that alone, it's enough to say that maybe Ferox has enough in their strat book that it's not just all about the hyper aggression and the runouts and quote unquote cheesing. I don't think you can really classify it as cheesing, but I think it was just a really good performance that I think not necessarily proved our tips wrong, but definitely proved a lot of the predictions that we have for the overall ladder wrong. And I think it's really shifted the power rankings as a whole.
Yeah, look, I honestly agree with you. Cool. Anything else that you guys want to mention for Playdate number 1?
I'm excited to talk about Playday 2 because that's where the juice happened. That's where the juice happened. That's the meaty part of this week.
Yes. All right. Well, if that's all, maybe we could go to the second best segment of the show, as Xenox would say. Maybe that's
Amen.
number 1, says Guards.
It's
All
only
right.
number 1 because it's first.
Okay.
That's
Yeah.
the
all
only
right.
one it's got.
Can't beat it, just like I was first born, so I'm like the first
Oh.
draft, so. Look, all right, let's start talking about this clip. So, you know, as always, I scoured the Twitter sphere for some content for
Not
this
TikTok?
episode, and no, not TikTok on this occasion, because of security concerns with the US, of course.
Disappointing, actually.
and for those of you in
know
chat-
you're that kind of guy, bro.
And for those of you in chat who may not be aware, Martin Copping, of course, is the voice actor of Mozzie. He's been to some events, and in fact, he actually does play the game as well, and he's featured in this clip. So let's roll it, and we'll see you guys on the other side.
Now presenting Goz's content of the week. Mom, get the camera.
He's above. He's just trying to put a camera through.
Okay. Above where?
Above us. He's on the
How did
other
he try to
floor.
put the camera through? What?
Just watch your head. Watch your head. Watch your head. He's above you.
Oh, shit.
All right. Well, that was quite the banger. And look, I gotta laugh every single time I see Duke's laugh in the reaction. It's so good.
Yes.
Definitely makes it what it is. And even Martin's reaction, he was like, oh. Like,
Oh, yeah.
he just didn't even know what happened, I think, until he died. But yeah, I definitely recommend watching Duke's content. Martin as well streams. Really entertaining. And in fact, Martin, I remember meeting him, and he was talking as well at the Grim Sky launch, which was at Fortress. Feels like a lifetime ago now. Really nice guy. So yeah, hopefully he gets more work in R6 being Mozzie and yelling on reloading or whatever the line is. I can't remember. But he always does.
Do you yearn for the touch of man since the Fortress event? It's been a while since you've been able to go outside, mate.
I don't think I've been outside like at all ever in the last.
Just not like in life generally. Just
Yeah.
haven't been outside.
After my ring light is like full yellow, just to, like give me a bit of a tan.
Simulate the sun.
Yes.
I like it.
Yeah.
Follow the natural cycle as well. Or was
Yeah.
it just 24/7?
Nah, it's just 24/7 yellow.
Yeah.
Gotta keep the skin tone up.
Adela's corrected you and said Void Edge. Like Grim Sky was like.
What did I say? Grim Sky? Oh, Void Edge. My apologies.
Yeah.
Sorry.
That's very boomer. That's a long time ago.
Oh yeah, back in my day when Grim Sky
yes.
came out with the Hereford rework. Yeah.
Yes.
In 10 years, it's going to be back in my day. We could go outside.
Well, before
I mean,
we
aren't
get,
you like that right now, mate? Like, come on.
Well, I mean, technically, back in my day, we could go outside. Yeah.
Oh jeez.
These
Love it.
boomers, Jesus.
All right, well, before we deep dive into these results, we do have another highlight video for the Playday, which will help give some context into some of the stuff that we will talk about. So I will quickly roll that, and then we can start getting real deep into these results. With a great man advantage now, just in the final 30 seconds. Diffuser down there at the top of red stairs. Looks like a great round for Akami at the moment, Manic.
They are going to need to pick up the pace and try and find at least one frag to even things, well, not even things out. Just give them somewhat of a hope. There's absolutely no chance for Todd as well. I don't think Hippie Cutie will be able to get around the corner safely. No, he won't as well. The last two players for Akami are low. Todd's going off right now, and there's absolutely nothing to stop Todd with a 3K in a post-plant situation. And they might look to double peak this as Sogs makes a little bit of a sound cue there, and that is just flawless from the Knights.
Because they essentially have Angmo pretty trapped right now.
They are hungry for it as well. Mims has come to the rescue there, taking down Haywood, and Mims might step up massively. He's going to have to go for the frag there. Sage with a double kill to save the round for the Knights. That was everything that LFO were looking for. And I don't know if Mims really knew. Is he looking for that C4 from below? 3 players now clumping up here for Elevate. Had he been able to find the timing on that, maybe that might have been the play. And Rhythm are getting caught out. Vast is just making way for Elevate here. The hit fire with the pistol. See you later. Lev manages to find the one and backs away as well. Still alive. May as well make his way back up. Cool vibes. Still needs to be cautious of that closer player, but there is well and truly Elevate swarming the site. Just absolutely taking it
down. Otherwise, I feel like Rhythm might have too much to deny.
Yep.
This is going to be quite chaotic, and bouncing now on this flank.
What just happened? What? Okay, Rhythm have gone off so much that they've had to kill one of their own teammates. Lev was like, Drex.
Tough ask for Rhythm.
I don't even know whether they necessarily knew where he was for a second. Hang on, you said tough ask. What has happened there? They've gone in and they've found themselves every trade they needed. Worthy's left wondering what has happened. The diffuser is still down, so there is every chance for Worthy here. Grant is being stuck, and unfortunately, he can't do anything. Rhythm somehow pull that round out and force us to overtime.
Oh, and that shot too through the gap. And mini control. Geos is going to flash himself. Not sure what Fisher Guy's doing, Manic. Here is the last 15 seconds.
Vinny, look, finds that second opening there, and it could be on, but unfortunately, it really slows everything down because now it's looking like it's going to be one prone attack. Geo does fall, and what's happened there? Actually, Pat,
that's quite
for a second.
That to retake right now, 20 seconds though, so not much time left. Noble to get this retake. They're all coming from the same direction. That air jab's going to really bugger it up. Ema Rin gets one. It's going to be out of the realm for Milo now, Manic. It is going to be a 5-1 half. Feels very reminiscent of earlier in the night.
Certainly does. The angle, will he go for a jump out here? You bet your bottom dollar he will. Derpe, expecting it or not, will be caught out, and oh my word, it's an absolute bloodbath. Fisho Guy once again with a double kill. Geo's not done yet. Pat will come around for another one to add to the tally. And with Milo down, Nico needs to clutch this out. Rush will go out and he'll swing it, and it'll actually be Pat that closes out the round for Wildcard. It looked like Noble had everything in their favor, Raven. Just the pure raw strength of Wildcard showing on the defensive side now. A massive round for Fisho Guy to clutch out for Noble. He's done it before, he's done it time and time again, but this is where he needs to step up, and he'll take the 6th round for Noble. It took them 5 on the attacking side, but they convert around, and that puts immense pressure on Wildcard.
Now, with a minute to go, he's going to start the plant. Vinny is just around the corner.
Refire. Milo will stick it. Oh no, the impact came out too little too late. If Milo...
Some more banger highlights and some really big games. We've been prefacing Friday most of this show, so I think you guys are probably excited to be able to get deep into this.
I mean, you just have to look. 2 overtimes. What did Wednesday have? None. There you go. Bangers.
That's true.
Yeah, I'm just happy the games were nice and competitive because when the VOD is muted, they can be a little bit less entertaining. So.
Why was the reason you had the mod muted, guys? Like, what was the reason?
Oh, why did I have the VOD?
Yeah, why? I'm just curious.
I just didn't really like the casters all that much.
Because Xenox and Guz weren't casting.
Yeah, understandable.
That's
This
those
is
are the only
what's
VODs to watch back, you know.
This is what's gonna happen, right? If we have Guz and Xenox on as hosting on this show, it's gonna be like the Bully Raven thing. So
you're gonna have to.
I'll get
tag
team next week, so it's okay. You can tag team me next week.
All right, we'll stock some stuff up.
There should be plenty of material if you've been watching my cast, so don't worry.
Nah, why would they watch that?
We just watch your stream, bro, and just like clip every fail.
Yeah, well, there's plenty of them. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Plenty of material.
All right, well, Ferox Akami was a great match to start off the night, honestly, because even though it was a 7-3, so not super close, the result was a big surprise for everybody, really.
Was it though?
Yes.
Was it, though?
I'm literally looking at our predictions, and you can go check the Ferox Twitter because who will win? 7 analysts and casters, the brightest minds at ANZ Siege, or 1 Greek boy, and the 1 Greek boy certainly gave us a railing.
I think
Oda.
that
Yeah,
I should have voted for Ferox. I should have seen this one coming, especially as the Snowball Predictions champion. I think that how I missed this one, I don't know. I think I just wanted to give you guys a leg up. I felt
Just
bad,
one of those ones that could have gone either way, right?
Oh, the theme.
Akami really dropped the ball here. Ferox had been building to this. I think the problem is that we had submitted our predictions prior to Playday 1. After their 5-7 performance against Noble, I would have tipped Ferox to win this. Simple as that.
I love how the excuses come out now, mate. I haven't heard about this all week long. You didn't mention it when you submitted your tips for this week. You didn't mention it for MVP. This is
laid it all out just laid it all out for the public to hear. I don't go,
don't go snooping a journalist behind closed doors.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, good performance from Ferox, and it was building.
Huge.
And honestly, this win could be season defining single-handedly for them avoiding bottom 2. I think it was fair to say coming into this season, they would have been looked at as probably lesser than LFO and Elevate. So for them to get this win, it's a good statement win. And now I definitely put them above at least LFO, Elevate, Rhythm, and Akami because like they've gone and beaten Akami, right? So good job, Ferox.
Look, I agree. I think it's created a really intriguing storyline now for the rest of the season because, like you said, they've beaten Okami now. So when they come up against some of those teams that we consider potentially lesser, it's all about if they secure those points. Yeah, they could potentially finish top 4 for playoffs. But just the thing I noticed with Ferox is just the sheer confidence in the way they played. Oda in particular, I cannot forget the picture of the very first round. There was a solid roam from Okami upstairs in Villa, because the map was Villa, and they were defending kitchen dining, and there was still a pretty strong hold in like Stat, Astro. Ferox hadn't made much penetration, and Oda just went straight into Stat, and he got like a double kill. He ended up with 3 for that round. And
you seem surprised.
I'm not necessarily surprised. It was just more impressive.
The entire chat knew Oda was going to win that single-handedly.
The chat was gassing him up, I tell you what. But it's not that I'm surprised. It's just that it was impressive. Like I'm highlighting that it was impressive. I think it's added something. That kind of play has really added something to Ferox's just team vibe, maybe overall. And it was the theme. Like everybody said, Oda played very well for that whole game. I guess it's just something that has carried through into their team play because Okami just didn't have answers. And Shade, oh my god, Shade got away with everything, including, I think it was the last round, he got like a run out from Study and killed 2 guys on Study balcony. And it's just like, stuff like this, just like, I don't know. I can't believe they get away with it.
I think there's one like important thing if we're going to look at Okami here as well, because this is obviously a very, very disappointing result for them. They would have definitely gone into this week gone, bam, Kanga, Ferox, easy 2-0, find ourselves on the top of the table, and now they're like fifth, I think, or something.
Yeah.
And I think, and I mentioned this in the Snowball Esports predictions piece for the games this week, is Akami are a team that if Ippy Style and Specker aren't KD positive, they will lose. Like, I think that's a fair assumption to make. In like 95% of the games, and I understand the team is very talented across the board, and I hate how I can't say Itby anymore because there's 3 of them with Itby in their name. But like, if we're talking about Itby Style and Specker going KD negative in this roster, it is a very much an uphill battle for them. And against a team like Ferox, who has stunned us all, I guess, in the first week, I think they've been the surprise package. And in terms of the first week's results, they will get punished. And in a BO1 system, you can't allow that to happen.
Yeah. And I mean, I said last week that these two teams going head to head was probably going to produce a messy map. And I'd probably go as far as to say that's the messiest game of Villa I think I've ever seen in my life. As you mentioned, Shay just getting away with ridiculous stuff. Kami on the attack doing really strange things. Like, there were multiple times where Specker, who apparently is IGLing, he said in the interview, just crouch walk entering bottom floor and getting picked. Very strange. So, yeah, back to the drawing board for Akami, particularly on that map. As you talked about, Ducky, Ippy Style and Specker, 2 lowest rated players on the team. You'd probably be expecting them to actually be the 2 highest. So some big red flags. They'll be looking to bounce back. But I mean, maybe the momentum or the negative momentum that has been generated from this map could flow on into the future. And with this season just being so short, that is incredibly dangerous.
Yeah.
One thing I do want to say is, like, you guys are talking about Specker and Ippy Style, and I think rightfully so, but I think a lot of conversation should really start to focus a lot more on Cutie's impact on Akami, because he had a very consistent 6 Masters. And so far, these 2 Playdays this week, or last week I should say, he had a consistent performance as well. In fact, I think he's up there with one of the highest rated players over the 2 Playdays in terms of
he's
CGG
the top rated
rating.
player.
Yeah, and like, honestly, I felt like he was keeping Okami in that Villa game, like, totally. I think without Cutie's input, both on scoreboard and probably support, because I've both played and coached Cutie. He is a great, like, communicator, honestly. I think Cutie is just generally someone that's quite underrated on that team. He's kind of lost, like, behind the stars, right? Like, as you guys have highlighted, Ippy Style being the prominent frag of Okami, and now with Specker back there, that's a strong personality and a strong fragger as well. But personally, I would totally rate Cutie up there as one of their better players, if not the best, based on his total contribution to the team.
But yeah, if consistency is going to be the key for Akami, then they really need Ippy Style when we're talking about Ippy here. Instead of, what is it? It's Ippy Cutie and Ippy Jack Daddy as well. I think those are the names now. But yeah, when you're talking about Ippy and you're talking about Specker, like, I feel like there's no doubt every player on that Akami roster is there for a reason, and Akami has always been up there, no matter what name they've gone under, as being one of the most talented rosters in ANZ Siege. But I feel like if they can't find that consistency amongst their top players, like the people that the players that people expect to perform week in, week out, which is your Itbys and your Speckers, I feel like the public consensus generally is, like, as long as Joker and Jack Daddy and Cutie can put up those consistent performances, Akami could 100% make Caliber Jacobs' prophecy come true and become the best team in ANZ. But, like, it is a worrying sign for me that Itby and Specker found themselves on the bottom of the leaderboard against a team like Ferox. And I think that if they were, I don't know if it was a cleaner game from them, if they were, it almost felt like they were switched off at times. If they were cracking overtime, that's a map that Akami wins 9 times out of 10. But I think that the fact that they lost it means there's a lot to work on.
Yeah, 100%. Xenox, do you have anything to add for that game?
Oh, well, I mean, I started us off, so...
Did you?
Do you want to finish
so
us
long
off?
ago,
Or
mate.
you
Totally
good?
forgotten.
I don't know.
Didn't say anything memorable.
No, I think everything was covered, so
Epic.
I think I'm happy to jump on to what's probably going to be a quick one to touch on. Knights LFO 7-1. complete and utter demolition, which is unfortunate for LFO because obviously, despite the fact that Knights should probably be winning it and the way that their form looks, it's not a surprise they won it, but the scoreline is ugly. This should have been at least 7-4, 7-3 at a minimum. So just it's unfortunate they couldn't put more rounds on the board and kind of further puts the spotlight on them to now what is essentially moving forward going to be, can they get out of the bottom two?
Yeah.
And where are they going to get these wins from? So they've got a bit of work to do.
Totally.
I think, put simply, they just looked lost. Like, they looked... Whatever they tried to do, it didn't feel like they were committing to plays wholeheartedly. It felt very half-hearted at times, and they would leave executes until very late. I've got someone in the chat saying that I should still believe in LFO, and I definitely do. Because I have been a big fan of this roster since like they started breaking out into Six Masters, and I think there's a lot of potential.
Bias expert.
Bias expert. All right, mate. Jesus, you sent.
Oh, you were the one that voted for them against Wildcard.
Yeah. I mean,
Did
I
you
was
vo-
the
wait,
only
did
one.
you-
But I voted for them in both games. I voted
Oh, you
for them in
did?
both- I
Oh.
voted for them in both games.
LFO letting you down. In all seriousness, I think LFO, they're not going to be going to Cafe ever again in OCN. That's 2 losses straight. That's going to be, if not an insta ban, a second ban. So we're not going to see them heading to Cafe for the rest of the season. And if they do, I'd be very, very surprised. And that would be a sign that they've got something going wrong somewhere in their map pool. So I mean, it's going to take us that opportunity. It's going to take us until tomorrow night to see them on a new map, to see if anything's different. If they go to another map, albeit, a map that maybe they haven't been as good in the past, hopefully it'll be better than Cafe. If it's not, then relocations becomes really, really scary because as Ducky said earlier, right, then they'll only have a handful of games left. They'll need to win the majority of them to be a shot. And when that pressure's mounting in officials, that's going to be rough, especially for LFO. They're not as experienced, so it's going to be difficult to deal with, I think.
Totally agree.
Well, at least we're going to be getting like a new map in the pool, because I was like, after this week, I was 95% sure there was only 3 maps in the pool with the amount of Cafe, the Cafe and Villa we saw, and then it was just the Token Clubhouse and Coastline, but they were kind of like split. It was mostly just the 2-map pool. Let's be real.
Look, I'm
add some variety.
surprised. I'm surprised that they actually allowed Cafe through, right? Maybe it's because they thought the Knights looked weak against Elevate on the Wednesday, but I'm looking back at the match results because I still have my spreadsheets up to date from last week. They lost Cafe to Kanga in the last Playday of Six Masters. LFO did.
Yep.
So I mean, like, maybe there's some empty confidence there in that map. Before that, they lost to Sinister 2-7 on Cafe. So they've
wasn't Cafe the map that they beat Wildcard on though?
Yeah, but like that's back at Six Masters Day 5. That's months ago with a different roster.
Yeah, but
I don't know.
I mean, when you're also taking into consideration like the other results from Six Masters against Sinister and Kanga, those were also like almost weeks, months ago.
They not as bad though. Like I mean, Day 13 versus Day 5 are like a few weeks apart at least, or maybe even over a month apart. I have to look at the dates, but I think regardless, it still shows that there's like already like a sketchy history on the map, and then maybe they just felt some extra confidence there. I'm not sure, but like you said, they looked lost, totally lost, and it's just like it was basic things as well. The main thing that stands out for me was I think it was round 2, Nasty. Like they were defending top floor bar. I don't even know if they were defending top floor bar to be honest, because there was just a heavy roam. LFO tried to push through Cigar. Nasty just, not Nasty, what am I saying? Juicy from Knights. He pushed in through bar, not being held from Skylight or anything. C4'd somebody in Cigar Shop, and then pushed all the way through to Red Stairs, completely just untouched. No refrag, no drone spotted it, just absolutely nothing. And like, that is just such a basic thing, is that you don't move solo, you move together as a team, or you have info. I just, that kind of stuff, again, it's kind of similar to what I was saying about the Akami Ferox match. It's just stuff that teams get away with that they really shouldn't. And I think that highlights just a big issue with LFO that Enigma did talk about in the interview, that they were really scattered and that their comms weren't great, and things weren't working out for them. So honestly, I just think that they've gone into a bit of a slump here. And I'm concerned because, yeah, it's a quick season. It's going to be over before they know it. And if they are in a bit of a slump with some fundamentals, it can be tough to turn that around. I think it was Xenox you said, like, where are they going to get their wins? Because right now I'm not too sure whether I would say there's any teams here that they might get a win from. Yeah, I think even Rhythm is in better form than these guys.
Ooh, that's a big call though. I
think it's a fair call.
Rhythm.
Yeah.
But I still, I don't know, like, sometimes you can have a play day like this where Rhythm maybe have overperformed and LFO have underperformed. And it's like, have we got the polar opposites, the polar extremes here where LFO have had a shocking day and Rhythm, and obviously we'll touch on that shortly against Elevate, have had a decent day, despite the fact they didn't actually get the win, mind you. So look, I still have, at the moment, LFO Rhythm as the bottom two. I do have LFO at some point beating Rhythm whenever they play. The question will be, who did LFO play on Playday 1? Wildcard, right? Yeah, so Wildcard and Knights, and I think you even said it before, Raven, at the very least, they've gotten some tough competition out the way. So when LFO end up playing Elevate, Ferox, Akami, and really all four of those are kind of in the same boat. Like right now, I have a top 3. Wildcard's ahead of that top 3 by a large mile, but it's Wildcard, Knights, Noble. Where, top 3, if you want to have a specific order, probably Wildcard, Noble, Knights. Then you've got this middle of the pack, which is Ferox, Akami, LFO, Elevate, and then there's Rhythm down the bottom. So LFO's in that pack for a reason, and they're going to have to find wins against a team like Ferox, who's beaten Akami. Akami, of course, has had a great history at Six Masters, bit sluggish at the moment, but you'd kind of back them into bit LFO. And Elevate's a team looking to get out of the bottom 2 from Six Masters and have looked better. So you've got some teams going up and some teams that are going to come down, and LFO right now is the team that's coming down.
Yeah, and I think, like you mentioned, that they've gotten 2 difficult opponents out of the way. They've still got a third. They're taking on Noble this weekend, or tomorrow rather. So,
Noble,
geez, that could be their hardest game. That could legit be a 7-0.
I would say that's a good thing. I'd say that's a really, really good thing, and might be the saving grace for LFO. You get all your hard games out the way, and then whoever they have after Noble, if they can win that game, you can ride the momentum all the way to the end of the season. You'll be able to have more comfortable opponents. You don't have to like win maybe 2 in a row. Looks like your season's on track, and then bam, wildcard gonna slap you around. Like they can build a bit of momentum towards the back end of the season.
Yeah, it's a real test.
I mean, the only argument, the only thing I'd say against that would be the fact that it gets to the point then when they can't afford to drop a map at all. So they could verse an opponent. Let's say Rhythm Playday 5. If LFO are under the pump and at that point can't afford to lose a map, all it takes is the pressure to get to them, and they could lose to any of these teams. So yes, getting the hard teams out the way does have its pros, but it also does have its cons, in that back half as well.
It's a real test of the team's mentality as well, because if you are too bogged down in these results, it can make you just low confidence. So even the games that maybe you would bank in normally towards the end of the season, you might start fumbling a bit, or you might really like doubt your form if you can't give yourself that perspective or to bounce just back mentally. Because I think LFO would have really backed themselves potentially stealing points out of one of these first 2 games. And I mean, like, of course, you're going to be feeling confident about winning in general. That's what competing is like. But like, I genuinely believe LFO would have felt that they could have done obviously a lot better than what they have. And I think that can be a bit dangerous, because even though we're all saying like, oh, these games are probably a write-off for them anyway, they probably weren't going to win them, they can just back it in towards the end of the season. I think they've still definitely taken a confidence hit. So, I don't know. I'm excited to see how they turn up against Noble. I think it's still going to be really tough for them. But yeah, it's just when it comes to, like you said, Xenox, when they start to face these other mid-table teams, I think that is go or sink at that stage. Sink or swim, whatever the analogy is. Like, they have to win those. Go or sink.
Say that again. Go or sink.
Go or sink. Well, let's just hope for the LFO simp in me that it's LF go. It's LF go.
LF go. I like it.
LF go.
Look, I was doing a quicksand analogy, right? Go or sink. Not water. It was quicksand.
All right. Raven, let's move on. Let's talk about Elevate versus Rhythm, because
I would elevate this broadcast.
Let's get into a new rhythm.
Yeah, Jesus.
Oh, jeez. All right. I'm
Oh.
just going to quickly disable these guys. Hang on 2 seconds.
Hold on. Why is my mic being cut? I've got some important points to say because I think this
Why
was
is
a
Xenox
wonderful
still in the
game.
call? What?
Yeah.
I
I mean,
mean,
it's already
I-
left once. I mean, it wouldn't be.
I didn't, to be honest, watch a whole lot of this map. I think I caught maybe the last couple of rounds, so I can probably introduce this one and pose the question to you blokes. Obviously, scoreboard shows 8-7, Elevate just edging out on in the end. It was actually actually quite a few defensive rounds won for a coastline match, 6 in total from what I've got here. So that's probably an interesting talking point. What can we take away from this one? Was it Rhythm playing out of their minds? Was it Elevate playing poorly and then strong at the end? What was the go?
Elevate just need to back themselves up for the Monty strat here. Like, I'm just gonna have a tiny little mold here. The fact that they double faked themselves in round 6 by not running the Monty strat almost cost them the entire map when you look back at it. Their Monty strats, when they had Vast on the Monty, that was such a good thing for them. Like, they played those rounds so well. And then when they didn't play the Monty, they lost. Like, they literally had a 4-0 win rate with the Monty and a 0-2 win rate without it on attack in the first half. Like, I think they double faked themselves, and Rhythm weren't adapting to that whatsoever. They were so static. Balls was roaming across the map, getting kills or getting killed at the start of rounds, which is not really something that you want on. Look, you want roamers, and you want to be able to like maybe get this. He was taking roaming to the next level, like in terms of like how far away he was going from sight and how long he would stay away. I definitely think this is a map that with just a bit of cleaner planning, a bit of backing themselves into the strategy that was working for them and not double faking them, Elevate could have taken this even with a scoreline of like 7-3.
I feel that. There was really two interesting stories here. I think one was Elevate's. They had 2 issues that I saw a lot of. One was them oversimplifying things. So there was that first round where they got flawless against, in fact, by Rhythm, where they didn't take any map control. They weren't having any verticals. They just tried to like work office into blue bar and get a plant down, and it was just totally oversimplified. Like, they even tried to plant in this edgy spot, thinking that they weren't going to get denied, and all it took was just somebody to peek a doorway from Rhythm's side. Like, that was such a big oversight. So that was a bit scary. But I think from that point on, yeah, the Monty play was fantastic, and that's what I was going to highlight when we talked about Elevate potentially being like a one-man show with God Legion. I just felt like Vast really shone through in this game for me, because he excelled on Montaigne. And I mean, like, we'll never know exactly how good his comms were with it, but he played the Montaigne very confidently. Like, he would just push straight at those roamers fast, get the info. There was one round you highlighted Bounce and constantly moving around. Vast just pushed straight through Penthouse into theater, pushed Bounce into the hallway, and then God Legion just peeks from luggage and kills him. It was like 40 seconds into the round or something, and it was just like fantastically executed. So against a lot of teams, that will work quite well. So I think Vast is proving to be a bit of a backbone there in terms of that kind of role. He also played quite well on the defense. So overall, I was relatively impressed with how Elevate played. But on the other hand, I was pretty impressed with how Rhythm played, because they were 6-3 down at one stage. And they dug deep and brought it back. They had some really strong rounds where they just played confidently, which is what they lacked when we saw them as Kanga in 6 Masters, was sometimes you just did not see confident plays. They stalled, maybe a bit lost. So that's something that's really changed with their new lineup. And I think they are looking a lot better this season, which is why I think that, honestly, I'm excited for LFO versus Rhythm, because I feel like Rhythm, at this stage, based on what I've seen from both teams, I feel like Rhythm might actually be able to take that. I really do.
All right, this is where I come in and I say I don't think Rhythm's going to win a single map this season, and this is not a bad thing. Let me just say something here. It's especially if we look at sports as a whole. Sometimes you have teams in sports that are on the way down. While they're on the way down, maybe they've got, for instance, a couple of decent players still on the team, so they pick up a win or two, for instance.
Yep.
For Kanga, I mean, they only picked up 1 map win in 6 Masters. And they were on the way down. It was very evident they were on the way down. With Rhythm, they're on the way up. But the problem is they're starting from that very downward position that obviously they were in. So while they're climbing their way up, I just don't see it happening this season. I do see them going into the relegation battle, and I don't see them picking up a map win because I just don't know where it's going to come from. Definitely, I think, though, they will play better. They will have closer results. It's not going to be as one-sided. The map differential is not going to be as blown out as it was in Six Masters. And who knows, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe they will find a map win somewhere. Where's it going to come from? The only team right now I can even think of is LFO, and even then I still think LFO will turn things around. So it's not going to be a bad thing if they finish winless, but this is a really, really good step in the direction for a team.
I was just gonna say, can someone like clip that and get the Curb the Enthusiasm music ready? Like, I think that'll make for a great clip in a couple of weeks' time.
I mean, but will it just off one win? Like, this is the thing, right? You got to have this mental attitude that these guys do have. From what I saw when Guz was doing his little hunting down of like some of the new players and their thoughts and things, was they were coming in, they want to win. Like, they want to win.
Yeah.
Honorable losses don't matter. And that's the right attitude to have. But just because you're not winning right now doesn't mean you won't eventually. And I think as long as they maintain that right attitude and they don't get too hard focused on trying to find like that one map win and then go and get that one map win, and it's like, right, who doubted us? Who said we wouldn't get a map win? And do things like that. Like, that's the wrong mentality.
Yeah.
It should be like, we got it now. Let's get the second one. Let's get the third one. Let's get the fourth. You know what I mean? And if it does come in the final play day again, then it's like, right, we got one now. Next one, we're gonna first get out of relegations, and then the next season we're gonna get 2 wins, and then you know what I mean. So constant improvement, they'll get there. It's just not gonna be this season.
I think there's another really important thing to point out with this Rhythm roster before we move on to Wildcard versus Snowball. But I think this is a Rhythm roster that is ostensibly different from the Kanga that entered Six Masters. When you look at the Kanga that entered Six Masters, only 2 players remain, 11 votes. Because Novex came on mid-season. Drexen bouncing anew, as far as I know. And this is an ostensibly different roster to what we saw. And like, when you look at the players that retired out of the Kanga roster, I mean, Spruce and Wayman, you love them to bits, but they were definitely on the way out. This newer, rookier, younger roster has the potential to grow into something great. And
That's what I'm getting at. That's literally what I'm getting at.
I'm backing you up here.
Thanks,
kind of cute.
Appreciate
Kind of
it.
cute.
No problem. I'll put you back, bro. But I think the star of the show here for me, like, I was really impressed with Novex. He looked
totally.
He looks a lot more comfortable when he's not playing hard support, which is what he was doing last season. He had a bit more freedom, I think, in their 2 games so far to kick off Oceanic Nationals, and he's looked infinitely better. So I'm very excited to see how he goes throughout the rest of the season.
Yeah, I agree about that too. And just to recap that whole thing, there is definitely a thing about being a competent competitive team. You have to learn to lose before you can learn to win. And that's very much like where Rhythm is at right now, is they've learnt how to deal with their losses, because you can lose badly, which is basically just get really salty and not be happy about it and just not understand why you're losing, and then you just keep losing.
That's mean ranked.
I thought you were actually going to say they got used, like, they got good at losing because they just got used to losing. Like, come on, bro, you don't have to flame them like that.
Not quite like that. It's about like there's like another thing. It's like the learn or lose mentality. So like, if you say you're losing, well then that's what you get is a loss. But if you're learning, then it's like Xenox said, it's like you build in towards your winning form eventually. So look, I think this is, I mean, it's not their season to like break into top 6. I don't think that's where they're going to be. But I think they will get 1, maybe 2 map wins. I don't know. That's just how I'm feeling after this first couple of days, at least. Cool. Let's go Wildcard Noble, which was totally the game of the week. Honestly, that game was incredible. It just went for so long, and there was so many just like nuts rounds. Honestly, crazy.
Oh, it was a good game, but it hurt my brain. It hurt my brain because there was so many opportunities where one team could have won it in regulation.
Yeah.
And I feel like I reckon the last 5 rounds of that series were the most scrappy siege that we saw all week, which was amazing from like a viewer perspective. There was a lot of like close 1v1 battles, a lot of I guess, ego peaking, a lot of strong gunfights. But I think Wildcard, and I'm gonna point at Vinny here. I think they lost their way a little bit. I think, and I spoke to Vinny about this in the Snowball Esports recap for this week. He said himself that he kind of lost his head a bit. He overanalyzed the way that his old team played, and he got into his own head. And I think you really could spot that by, I think there was 2 or 3 rounds on defense where he just got caught out and dining on Malusi and just got instantly killed, leaving Wildcard into 4v5s.
Yeah.
And Wildcard won most of their defense rounds except for the one where Vinny dropped a 3k. But I feel like they just lacked a little bit of composure when it came down to the death.
Yeah, Vinny had a rough one, but I mean, someone who didn't was obviously Fisho guy, got MVP, Snowball MVP for the week. That was such a great performance. I mean, just looking at the stats, 20 and 12, 5 and 1 on entry as well. So absolutely just clicking heads.
It.
And I mean, Fisho's been a player that's always looked good, but hasn't always performed well, is probably the best way to describe it. Sometimes he'd be that player you would put on the exotic picks. I remember even thinking back to last season, he'd be put on the Monty for some strange reason for 4 rounds straight, wouldn't do anything, and they'd still stick with it. So I think giving Fisho that freedom to be confident and to enter these gunfights was great. He was giving Noble such a big boost on that map, and I think without Fisho stepping up, it might have been wildcards to win in the end, potentially.
Yeah, I think Vinny definitely had a cooler night than what he did on the Wednesday. I think he finished negative 10 and 12 or something. Whereas I don't have the stats up in front of me, unlike Mr. Spreadsheet himself.
Yeah.
But it was definitely quite a showing for him. I think it was very good signs for Noble that someone had actually been able to step up into Vinny's shoes and fill them in the way that Fisho guy has. And even when you look back towards Wednesday, it was Milo who was doing the exact same, because I think Milo dropped 15 frags on Wednesday. So that Noble roster is looking very strong across the board. I still got the little question mark above President. He didn't have the greatest of debut weeks, but what's to expect from a player who's just turned 18 and is having their first couple of games in the top flight outside of what I think he played Oceanic Cup back in 2019.
Yeah, Sleeper Gaming.
Six Masters 19.
Masters 19. That was with the Extra City roster back then.
Sleeper. That was Sleeper GG with Milo, actually.
Okay.
I mean, I think on that topic though, President, I don't think is ever going to be a player that's going to be top rating and top fragging.
Oh, no.
He's definitely there just to be that rock for the team and just, give calls and play off his teammates. It wasn't a great night, but I mean,
they got the win.
Not every night.
That's what you can.
We don't necessarily see the impact that he had outside of the scoreboard. He might have been giving some really good calls, getting some really good drone spots, etc., etc. So, again, got the win.
Yeah.
That's what matters.
It's the nature of Siege.
I think this would have been a really important game for him because, he didn't have a great game, but it was his first week at this level done, and they got a win against Wildcard. I think just the relief of pressure that would have had off him would be really helpful. So I'm definitely curious, and I'm going to be looking at him a little bit more closely this week to see how he has bounced back and see whether that is a relief of pressure. Overall, though, Wildcard, I think, were a bit lackluster in this game, and I felt like they could have taken this if they were more on point, right? It looked like Noble were playing close to their best. They had a great game. Whereas I would say Wildcard had a pretty average game. So it's not like two teams in their best form playing off against each other, if you know what I mean. And that's something that I think is a bit interesting moving forward, is that Wildcard need to hone in on that a little bit, because otherwise, I mean, maybe they won't finish on top. But Fisho definitely a shining light for Noble. I think the entry stat is the big one there. The 5 and 1 on entry. And honestly, I just remember the amount of times, if they're clearing top floor, for example, for a reading dining defense, sorry. Fisher was the one that would always be pushing through bar, and he just would swing on cocktail, and just honestly, it was always clean. It was clean. He just cleared them out. I think the amount of times he didn't even lose HP in those gunfights was pretty insane. So he is stepping up as an entry player so far this season. I mean, he had an okay Wednesday. Friday was obviously like this.
Yeah.
So I think as long as he can be consistent, like Guz said, he hasn't always been the most consistent player, but he is a good player when he's on fire. I just think if he has a consistent season, Noble will be pretty scary.
Look, if this Noble showed up in Six Masters playoffs, they definitely would have been knocked out in fourth. So,
Well, this
I
is
think-
the thing. This is now where it comes to me to discuss this.
The sports analogy.
What are you gonna what are you gonna dish up now?
This result doesn't matter. It does not matter. It really doesn't. Noble have been a regular season team for how long now, and then yet continue to stuff up in the actual playoffs or finals.
jeez.
That's where it needs to be done. That's where I'm being honest. That's
Of
where it needs to be
course,
done.
yeah,
And you
of
look,
course.
They gotta
you look
make
at
it
a team-
first. They've got a good seeding at least. Like this
They
season
had a good
doesn't
seeding.
count for
They had a
nothing.
good seeding in Six Masters, and they went out in straight sets. Like you know,
Well, it wasn't ideal seeding. They would have liked to have been top 2. Finishing third.
Noble.
Yeah, Sinister were third, weren't they?
I
Yep.
thought that was second. Oh, well, maybe I'm wrong.
No, they were
Army-
third.
Army was second.
Okay, well, regardless, they're still going to get the job done in
Yeah.
playoffs, and that's where it's really going to matter. And wildcard is still
Sure.
obviously, despite Vince doing a lot better on Playday 1 than he did on Playday 2. Obviously, they're still going to miss Ethan for a bit, adjustment period, all of that. Which by the time the playoffs do come around, I think will be sorted for wildcard. So Noble have just got them at the perfect time. Like they've and look, yes, obviously Noble have had they lost Vince, so President's come in and President, as you guys have mentioned, not the greatest debut week, but doesn't need to do the things that some of the other debutants did for the other team. It just has to come in, play his role, and the other guys will do the rest. And that was very evident, not just obviously in the win against Wildcard, but even on Playday 1. And the thing is, though, when I say, and this is why I need to finish what I'm saying, they need to do it in the playoffs, but this win now, at the very least, if they do what they should be doing, which is beating everyone else, they're going to get top seed, and they should be able to then get that playoff win and then roll with that momentum. And who knows, maybe when these two teams meet again in the playoffs, they might get it done and they could win the whole thing. So there is a sense of fairy tale building based off of this result, but it still doesn't matter right now, because once Wildcard get the rhythm going with Vince and no
Elevate
longer-
their performance and
and no longer missing Ethan, right?
Yeah.
It's going to be a different wild card in playoffs, and that's where it's really going to matter.
Yeah.
But yeah, ultimately, look, obviously, can't be too upset. Maybe I was a bit harsh coming out of the blocks there. It's a good win for Noble. What are they meant to do? Lose, I guess, but no.
I get that.
Who beats them now, though? Who beats them for the rest of the season? Who beats Noble?
LFO. Yeah.
I think
I think they
Knights-
can definitely. I think there is definitely a lot of losable games for Noble. I think
A lot.
the Knights.
Noble
I'd
lose
say
games
one.
that they should win.
I would
all-
say one.
traditionally.
One is losable, and that's Knights. The rest, if they lose, it's a throw.
I think there are 3 losable games left, and
Yep.
that's Knights, Akami, and LFO. They're losable. I don't expect them to lose. them all.
LFO? No way.
I am an LFO simp. I
Okay,
am an
listen.
LFO
Firstly, you're completely wrong about the LFO one. Akami, I can understand, but I wouldn't say it's losable. I would say that they should be heavy favorites, and if they lose it, it's a throw. Can they lose it? Yeah, of course. I mean, you can lose any game.
But
They
that
could
makes
lose
it losable.
They could.
That's the definition of
That's what losable means, Zenox.
They can lose. That's a losable
Jesus.
game.
But okay, but that's the thing. Is it's a loose, right? Because every game is losable. At the end of the day, every game is winnable and every game is losable. There is an understanding as to, okay, it's losable because Akami's close to their level, right? Which right now I don't think is true. They can obviously lose against them. Yes, it could happen. And I think, as Raven was trying to point out, is Noble at times do lose games they probably should win, and that's going to be their mantra for them this season. Realistically, and what I'm trying to say is, now that they've knocked off Wildcard, I only see Knights giving them a real good run for their money, and everyone else they should be winning. As a team, Noble should be sitting back and saying, everyone else, we should always be going in as favorites. And as long as you're going in as favorites, you get the job done. That's now their goal for the season.
This is
But as long
like
as they don't play into their own head come playoffs, then.
Yes.
But like, yeah.
Playoffs
like
is a
what
different
we'll,
beast.
Playoffs is
Playoffs is
definitely a
different
different
beast.
beast. Like,
It's
I
like what
mean,
we're
personally,
saying-
I've tipped Noble all the way through. I mean, I haven't done game day 5, 6, 7 tips yet. But like, I've tipped Noble for their 2 games this week.
Yeah.
But I definitely think that in a BO1 system, with the teams that they still have to face, because they've only played one of the big boys, there is definitely losable potential.
They will lose at least one map. I bet my
Now
bottom
that's a
dollar.
curb your enthusiasm. That right there is a curb your enthusiasm.
I'm not sure. I'm pretty
They
sure
will,
the
they'll
curve
lose a
you-
map. They will lose one map.
Yeah.
100%.
Watch them.
Just
They're
one?
not going to lose another map. They
They
will
will.
not lose
They
another
will.
map.
They will. 100%.
To who?
is this another UG bet? I feel it's
Who
an
do
UG
you,
bet.
who do you
Yeah,
have
where
them
the Uggs
beating?
at?
Who do you have them losing to?
I mean,
Sorry.
let's use the playoff analogy again, right? We expected Noble to do well at the playoffs. They didn't do
I'm
well
not-
then.
I'm not talking about the playoffs, by the way. I'm saying just for the regular
Yeah,
season.
Regular season.
Well, we've also seen Noble previously in Pro League 10-11. They had very, very winnable games there that they threw away as well. So they need
Okay,
to be
so-
very careful.
To get it straight, you're basically saying you don't know who will do it, but at some point a team will.
Yeah, that's what I said.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
They will win.
No, I
They
just,
will
I just
lose
thought
at least
maybe
one map.
I just thought maybe you had a team in mind that would be like, oh, I think Knights would be the one that beats them all.
I couldn't name a team. No.
Yeah. Okay.
What I was gonna say.
I
is
named
feel
my
like-
3 that I think that they could lose to. Do I have them losing to them? No, but I think if they lost to them, I would look at the result and go, sure.
I feel like the situation right now with Noble is the reverse of what we were saying with LFO in terms of mindset. So LFO's mindset is about weathering the storm until they have winnable matches, and then they have to be totally ready for those. I think Nobles is now the spotlight on they have to not get complacent because they've just beaten what you would consider the best team in the league. If they get overconfident, I think they'll end up losing probably an easy match. I think a team like Elevate or Ferox, for example, might sneak up on them if they get a bit complacent
nah.
about that. I honestly do, because it's
Do you
the
mean
best
the
of one.
Elevate that almost lost to Rhythm?
Yeah, because I don't think Rhythm are as bad as you think they are. But like in a best
Oh.
of one, in a best of
This
one,
is where the spice is coming, bros. It's
in
good.
a best of one, it is totally possible. It's just about who you got to be in form on the night.
Okay,
right?
but how many if Six Masters was a best of one, how many maps did Rhythm win last in Six Masters?
Oh, that's last season though. We're talking about Oceanic Nationals, Xenox.
All right.
That's
I mean, I'm
different,
pretty
mate.
sure, like, off the top of my head, I'm pretty sure Sinister only won 9 maps last season.
I have no idea. Honestly, I'd have to look at the stats again. Maybe.
But this is that was last season. That was last season.
Yeah,
exactly.
Bro, you just choose a narrative when it suits you, mate. Like, yeah, that's what I've learned from this podcast.
If we
There's
just
people shipping
focus-
us in chat, but I'm not
if
sure that's
we
the
just
case
focus
anymore.
on this season right now, Noble are in a great spot, and they just need to not get complacent because I think it's easy.
Well, they're already into the playoffs.
Yeah, totally. I don't see them not making playoffs, 100%. But
I mean, they're 1 win away from making it in. Like, because it's top 6, it's 3 wins, definite lock.
yeah,
So
and
they're
like you
1
guys
win
were
away from
saying,
making it.
they are gonna want a top seed. Like they're gonna be wanting finishing in 1 and 2. So there's no time for them to just like relax. And I just think it's so easy when you beat the best team to maybe not get overconfident. I think definitely complacent is the word.
Who'd they beat in Playday 1? I've completely forgotten already.
Noble.
Ferox.
Yeah, Noble.
Ferox.
Yeah, Ferox.
Okay.
And that was only 7-5.
Like,
Like, that was
decent,
close.
That's a decent. Yeah, that's a decent team to move out of the way as well.
I mean, yeah, it is.
So
You really want Noble to go flawless, don't you? You really do.
Well, I mean,
Just say you
I'm,
can prove
I'm
me wrong.
apparently paid off by Enigma. I don't know who Xenox is paid off for by now, but like,
someone on the Noble payroll.
Oh,
yeah, someone.
Yeah. Look,
Alright,
they also
let's,
have a history. They also have a history, by the way, of just like Guz was saying, of
just losing games they shouldn't lose. And I
Yeah.
mean, I'm always saying this in the way that I'm hoping it happens. I don't for Noble because obviously, you know, they're great people, and I hope they do well for their own
Yeah.
like journey. But I do honestly, genuinely see them dropping at least one map somewhere.
All right.
Yeah.
I think we're time to move on.
Still got some previews to go. Jesus Christ.
well, we have what is apparently arguably the greatest segment in the show.
Wait,
So,
hang on. Do I have to do the 3 things I learned quickly?
If you want to, go for it, mate.
So the 3 things I learned this week. Number 1, I learned that LFO are a lock for relegations. I don't have them. I don't have them coming out the bottom two. I'm sorry, Nick. Or I'm sorry, boys. I just don't have them coming out the bottom two, unfortunately. So that was one thing I learned this week because that was just, yeah, a really, really rough one. The second thing I learned is rhythm aren't as bad as their results will suggest by the end of the season.
Preach.
And I mentioned this before, that even if they were to go winless or they get one map, I still think that the future ahead of them is brighter than it was towards the back end of Six Masters. And the third thing I learned is Noble's going to go, you guessed it, lossless for the remainder of the season.
Ooh, I think that's a good one.
I need a new
That's
casting
bold.
partner. Where can I trade Xenox in and get a new one? Or?
I was gonna say, guys, when Noble loses and you're casting with Xenox, can you just rub it in? Did you just do that? So you remember that time on the relay where you said that Noble was gonna go flawless?
Xenox is already DMing Noble, being like, "Boys, I need you right now.
Please pull out from
I don't have to message them anything. They've already taken care of one.
The confidence of this man, it's oozing into my webcam.
I think it is definitely now time for the number one segment of the week, not just for the reload, but just the worldwide.
Here he goes. Do you
Xenox
want to intro
sexy player of the week?
Do you want to intro it anyway, or we'll talk about it when we come back, mate?
No. I'll just quickly say that the play itself was what's a pun? I don't have a pun. I don't
Sexy.
know,
there you go. There's a pun. That's your pun. It's sexy.
It was no. I don't know. Just play the clip.
All right, here we go.
It's time for Xenox's sexy play of the week. Ooh, now
Bring
that
one,
play
but
was
Gio,
sexy.
he's got smokes. There's definitely an opportunity right now. He's standing in amongst it. Oh, he's gonna get not flashed though. This is gonna be very detrimental in his position.
Oh, Gio, that's a massive start. Oh no, Nico, he stepped up with two. Gio, he holds the hard line. And now, what kind of play can he make? The diffuser's going down. Oh, he stopped it in time. Fisho guy can't get it down. The Buck was watching the line, tagged him up through the fire and flames. Geo.
Now,
very clean.
Great play there from Noble. They're just not going to lose the map.
No. Listen. What I can say is just an excellent bit of play there from Geo. Perfection in timing. Awesomely done from Wildcard. Of course, they did lose the map, unfortunately. So that's now, I think, I'm pretty sure that's like 2 Xenox sexy plays of the week where they actually have gone on and lost the game. So maybe I should change my my mantra here that you've got to probably at least go on and win the game to have a sexy play. But look, really good play. By the way, just to highlight there, Geo, I thought was amazing. I had given, I think, Geo 1 or 2 votes for my MVP from the week of play overall, both games. So big shout out to Geo there. Balled out for Wildcard. It's a shame they couldn't get the win. Yeah, but I think Wildcard will end up beating Noble in the playoffs.
Okay.
Bold move, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for them.
Here we go. All right. Well, you will see on the screen, of course, the schedule for Playday 3, and we do have some great matches coming up this week. Some particular ones that I'm excited for. Okami Elevate to open it off. I think it's going to be a really good match.
It's the ending. It's the ending.
It's the ending?
I
For
mean,
who, though?
Yeah, that's the thing is like who's the ending for? Like it is going to be, I think,
sorry,
ostensibly a do or die match, not in the way that the team that loses will not make playoffs, but it's like I think the team that loses this game can almost just be counted out for not winning Oceanic Nationals.
Did you mean, Xenox, the ending match is your highlight of the week, or your excited match?
Yeah, no, the ending match. I'm talking about Knights.
Okay, I thought you meant like the first match was
schedule.
like it's the ending for like a team, and I was like, wow, that's
obviously
dude,
I don't
man.
know what the ending's going to be between Akami and Elevate. We haven't seen them play yet.
But yeah, I spoke about
We
this
can't talk
briefly
about the scripts.
in the Snowball Esports predictions this week. Was like this is a do or die match. If either of these teams want to win Oceanic Nationals. Like
Yes.
they have a lot. There are
Wait,
There's
do
a
you mean like
lot of-
regular season or playoffs? 'Cause-
like all the way through. Like
well, it's got nothing to do with playoffs.
Oh, shut up, mate. Like, honestly, at this point, it's like, I've had enough of this. Like, let me get through my talking point. I think there is, like, when you look at, because it's what, still 3 teams going to the major? I think, like, you can even, oh my god, he's trying to chat shit, he's muted. If you look at the, you look like that dude on ACA, mate.
Yeah,
Like,
that's what I was thinking of.
Yeah.
I thought he's Xenox in like 5 years. He probably looked that old in 5 years.
Yeah.
Oh no.
If you look at it, like, I think the team that you can even go as far as saying it's the team that loses this match doesn't even make the mini major.
Yeah.
And I think it's a very much a do or die game for these teams if they want to run it deep into the postseason. Personally, I think it was a case of Okami just having a really off week, and that they should come back and win this. Hopefully, not necessarily, I wouldn't say comfortably, but at least in regulation.
Yeah, I mean, when I look at this Playday in particular, the only real matchup that stands out to me is that first one in terms of how close it will probably be. I'm expecting...
What?
Nah, wildcard rhythm.
You have no faith in the Greek
Noble
boy.
LFO. Noble. Unless they, lose the map, which will happen at some stage. And then Knights Ferox will be Knights. So the only game that, to me, that sticks out as not being one-sided is
Ferox just
Okami
knocked off
Elevate.
Akami, and you're already just saying they got no chance against Knights.
But you also called Okami tragic earlier.
That's true.
You got the narrative both ways, mate.
We'll get to it later. We'll get to it later. In terms of Akami Elevate, look, they were tragic. I think we can all agree with that, but they'll turn it around, as you guys have already turned it, spoken about. Elevate, I still think that they're too reliant on only a couple of players on that roster. We'll see how they go. Like, Elevate's the kind of team that could win this. They really could. It could go either way.
Jeez, not this again.
Oh no.
I can never say that again in my life without thinking of you.
Seriously, yes.
Akami should be winning this. And if they don't win this, they basically should be as good as done for playoffs in my mind. And in terms of being able to replicate how good they were in Six Masters, is basically in the bin by that point, because this is a match that they should be winning. And if they don't win it, they're in some serious trouble. Like,
yeah,
it's not going to look good. So,
I'm in the same camp.
Camp
honestly, not Camp Xenox, but just that the camp of
No one wants to be there. No one wants to be in Camp Xenox.
Okami losing this game is definitely a big dent in their playoff run, because I think it will basically put them into a lower seed, and I think they'll find it tough to really bounce back from that, because they'll be up against tough teams at the start of the playoffs, as opposed to what they used to. They usually, in the last few seasons at least, when they've hit playoffs or that kind of area, they've been in 1 or 2 or even 3rd. But regardless, if they lose this, I do see it going not great for them. And also there's the confidence hit with that too, right? Like, they would have been coming into this season expecting big things of themselves, stepping it up based on how they played at the major and Six Masters, given that they put Spectre into their roster. And so if they're going to be facing 1 and 2 as a start to Oceanic Nationals out of 7 games, I think that's going to be a big hit to their confidence. So yeah, I think it is going to be a bit of an alarm bell match if they lose. Personally, I am actually predicting Elevate, because I think Elevate...
Wait, you predicted Elevate in the Snowball predictions?
I'm pretty sure I did, right, Ducky? Unless I'm wrong.
Yes, he did. He did predict Elevate.
So, what's my lead against Raven now?
Oh, here we go.
It's about to go up even more.
You've got one now. You've got 1 point now.
You guys are casting this match on Wednesday. I'm going to be in chat. I tell you what, mate, if Elevate win, you want to stay out of Twitch chat.
I mean, I think I tipped Akami as well, so it's the battle of the casting pairs. I don't know what Manic tipped.
From the leaks from the Snowball spreadsheet there are 2 people who voted for Elevate.
Oh.
And they are the 2 casters tomorrow night, Manic and Raven. So there could be a lot of gloating.
No, we're
on
casting
that
tomorrow
there
night.
could be a lot of loathing.
Yeah,
we have Xenox casting. It's the battle of the pairs again.
So yeah, whatever.
That's
Bring it on.
That's look. Manic and I have not spoken about our predictions, so I just want to make it clear that we predicted this independently.
Yeah.
But look, I honestly think this is going to be a good game. I'm hoping this is another overtime game. I think it has the potential to be one of
Actually,
those.
wouldn't mind that because we haven't had an overtime.
Oh yeah, you guys didn't get one on Wednesday last week. Yeah, look, I think it's going to be a really fun match.
All right,
Yeah.
now do we want to just skip this next one?
Jeez. Well, it's going to be a wild card win. I mean, I don't know what else we're going to say about that. Rhythm might be able to get a few rounds on the board and build a little bit of confidence. Map dependent, maybe Rhythm can throw some kind of wild card, if you would, at wild card in the map veto.
Ooh,
But
it's getting involved. I like to see it.
yeah, I mean, it's going to take some miracle for Rhythm. I mean, the only kink in the armor of wildcard is the fact they lost to Noble. So maybe they'll be a little bit down after that. But surely they can bounce back, right? Like, it's wildcard we're talking about.
The one thing that I'm just thinking about this match is just how much his bouncing ball is going to be abused. Like, I feel like I like his roaming was already pretty much.
Add some context to it, Ducky. Jesus.
It's that time of night, mate, isn't it?
We're talking about the player, I'm pretty sure, yeah?
Yeah, we're talking about the player.
Okay, good.
But like he was roaming on like power picks against Elevate. He ended up bottom of the scoreboard for them. If up against Wildcard, the roam clear and those little macro strategies are going to be hitting him tenfold. So I hope he's bringing his A game.
He won't be able to get away with that stuff, for sure.
On the other hand, though, I mean, there was a couple of times that Wildcard were just absolutely making a meal out of roam clears against Noble on Cafe. I know Noble's a completely different caliber of team, I get that. But the fundamentals involved are still the same in terms of the team that's clearing the roam. So, I mean, maybe there could be some instances there. I think a lot of that will come down to what the map is. And that's
Take him
where
to coastline. Take him to coastline and they won't be able to roam. Problem solved.
Yeah.
I mean,
think
Balls tried it last week. Like, let's be real. That's what he was doing.
Because it's wildcard, I have a lot of faith in the way that they're going to be doing their veto. So I just don't think the map they won't take Rhythm to a map that will really enable Rhythm's playstyle to work that well. Like, I think it's going to end up being a really structured map, and that's going to end up saving or ensuring that wildcard actually have like a solid performance. So I'm thinking like a 7-4 might be the scoreline here. But yeah, I too don't see wildcard losing it.
I think 7-4 would be a really good pass mark for Rhythm here.
Yeah.
7-5 would be like the dream, just in terms of like pushing them.
I think the dream's the win here, mate. But I get
Well,
what you're
we all
going at.
know. I think even they know they got no chance.
Gee whiz. All right.
I hope their mentality is screw you, we're gonna win, and then they come out and they absolutely win and they shock everyone, right?
That'd be amazing.
I'm just saying my piece here, which is, and you're all thinking it, okay? 7-3. 7-3, I'd give him as a pass mark, where it's like, okay, respectable. Anything that's 7-0 to 7-2 is even against a team like Wildcard, not acceptable sort of numbers. But Rhythm are a team that's, you know, as I said, going to look a lot better, and they're going to get more round wins, not necessarily the map wins this season. So this is where I'd like to see them get that 7-4, like you said, and if they can get that, it's a really good sign for them. I don't know what their scorelines were against. I'm pretty sure they got 7-0'd against Wildcard.
Yeah, it was
I remember
Theme Park or something.
Yeah, Theme Park. Yeah, they got 7-0'd Kanga at that point. So obviously, anything's a step up at this point.
From there.
Yeah.
It's a 7-0, and there was actually 7-2 on Coastline, so maybe Coastline is the best pick.
It was
will be a good pick for Wildcard. Yeah.
It was a stomp. So they've got themselves a benchmark here, which I think they'll pass.
Yeah. Okay, well, look, we'll move on to Noble and LFO. I think it's a very similar storyline here in terms of how it's going to play
Unless
out.
you're Ducky.
I've tipped Noble.
Oh, he's off the
bandwagon.
Wow,
you've gone against the LFO. How dare you?
I actually originally had my tip in this week for LFO, but then I went, I think that's a little bit.
How dare you? Well,
yeah.
The LFO camp turns on Ducky.
I think this is a great game for LFO to bounce back. Do I think they'll win? No. Do I hope that they can show some of the glimpses of promise that they showed in Six Masters and Spring Sweep and in the off-season tournaments? Absolutely. I think they definitely have the potential to show that. Have they shown that yet? Hell no. I think Nate has a long way to go on this roster. But Noble is going to be one of their biggest tests yet, and it's the same thing. If they get a 7-4, if they get a 7-5, that is a brilliant pass mark for them. If they get belted like they did against Knights, that's going to be a worrying sign.
I agree. I think any sort of belting, even against a team like Noble, who, as I've said, aren't going to lose a map for the rest of the regular season, it's not acceptable. LFO need to at least, as you said, get 7-4, 7-5 on the board. If they can push overtime, that'd be like amazing. May as well just give them bloody half a point. But I agree. I think
write that one into the rule set, Raven.
Sure, mate.
I think this is the sort of game that can actually turn around their season, because after this, LFO are going to have that clean run through. I think it's maybe after Playday 4. I'm not sure, but
they've got a Kami Playday 4.
Yeah, so basically after this, they will have played the two top dogs. Now it's like the teams around us and the teams below us for the remainder of the season. So you play well here, you get 7-4, you get 7-5, good confidence booster. Win your Playday 4 matchup, and then who knows, maybe you go and don't drop many more maps towards the end of the season, and you do get that final spot. Because as you've alluded to, Ducky, you only need about 3 wins or so. Obviously, they're on 0 right now, and they're probably going to stay on 0 after this one, which means they're going to need all their wins in the back half of the season. So build confidence here, get your wins later.
Yep,
I
I echo everything that's been said. I mean, looking back last season, across the 2 maps, it was like 14-5 in terms of rounds, in favor, of course, of Sinister. So, and I'd say that the discrepancy between the teams then, which was like round 6, so about midway through the season, or back end of the season, pretty similar to what it is now. So, should be a very comfortable Noble win.
I think LFO were a little bit better back then too.
I think they're just having some. I think they're having some cohesion issues with Nate, but I think there's like
Jesus. Do you hate Nate or something?
No, I don't. I'm
gonna at Nate. I'm gonna at you and Nate on Twitter and be like, go at it, please.
I don't have any issues with Nate, but like you cannot. It's undeniable. You look at the stats. He's literally the lowest rated player for the first week of action.
Okay,
and I think
week 1.
It is fine. Week 1, and it was not the easiest lineup for LFO.
Yeah.
I'm also pointing fingers at Mims, who is also joining him hand in hand in number 2 there. And Mims is a player that I've often professed about as being a shining light for LFO, and the fact that he was rather absent in the first 2 games.
Is that based off Mims's playstyle or just the stats?
I mean, I think you can make a very solid argument that most of LFO just look lost.
Okay, but like I think statistically, you're always going to have a very, very, very rough week 1 based on the teams that they've played, and then obviously Playday 3 is not going to help either. Like this is going to be a case, and I'm not having a go at you either, Ducky. You're just doing your job here, but where their first 3 Playdays stats, and then you compare it to like their last 3 Playday stats, it's going to be
they're
going to
be ostensibly different, but I think they definitely underperformed from what they could have performed at.
Oh, most definitely.
Because I look back at like the plays that Mims was making when we crowned him MVP in the first couple of weeks of Six Masters for the week that he got it. I think it was week 1, which wasn't when he played wildcard.
Yeah.
But like if he can get back to that form, and if he can stay at that form for the rest of the season, there is a lot of potential in this LFO roster. But if that was actually just truly a flash in the pan, then you might be hard pressed to see a win for them.
I mean, regards to Nate as well, it feels like for him, he's just been in the hyperbolic time chamber, right? Where he's gone up against the best of the best. The gravity's on 500, and then he literally finishes the first 3 Playdays, and it's like the training weights are off now. Like that's the best that they're gonna throw at me. Everything else from here is downhill. So that's one thing that sort of has to be in the mental, not just for Nate, probably for the entire team, to be honest. And that's probably something Enigma would mention to them, is that like, okay, we've had some tough games, some tough teams, but from here on out, no more excuses. Like you've got to get involved here. You got to find some wins.
I think I think to wrap this up as well, so we can move on to the last game, and something that I don't believe we've really mentioned yet is a big difference between LFO last season and this season. Besides the fact, obviously, they've changed one player, is Six Masters. They were the team that were like lacking expectations. No one had expectations at all of what they were going to do. But
no one knew who the hell they were.
Exactly. And like they tied 4th in points. Like they just missed out on the playoffs by
Yeah.
I can't remember what
A
stat it
couple
came
of
down
rounds,
to.
4 rounds, I think. in
Super
this
close. Super close.
Yeah.
So not only
That's a really
did-
good point you brought up because I remember I think it might have been the final week of regular season when they had like a big game and
Yeah.
I think it might have even been Menu and I even said this is different now because they do have expectations and this is the
Yes.
thing coming into Oceanic Nationals this is not the who are these guys anymore. This is LFO, a team with expectations based
Yep.
off their previous performance.
So I think that could be something that maybe is getting to them. Like they've put a lot of pressure on themselves to back it up or improve, which of course you do as a team. But when you are a lesser experienced team, sometimes that can get the better of you and you don't even realize it until it's happening, which is what's kind of happening right now. So I wonder how much of it is just that they have a lot of extra pressure externally, but also internally of themselves, trying to really improve on what they did in the Six Masters. And yeah, there's a lot of factors as to why they've not performed that well. Obviously, a big one is the teams they've played against have just not been easy teams, right? Like, they are the top teams. But yeah, I think it's just about them settling into a new rhythm with Nate and then maybe just dealing with some of the expectations and pressure they've got of themselves. And then maybe, like we've said, they'll start to stabilize in the latter half of the season.
Before we go to Knights and Ferox, and I definitely want to go there right after this, I just want to put it to you one by one, Guz down to Ducky. Do LFO make playoffs?
If they win this, yes. If they don't, no.
I'm just going to say
Raven?
no. No, I'm just going to say no.
And Ducky?
It's not so much off the Noble game. If they beat Okami, they do.
I like that. Yeah. Yep.
That's a good point.
We're all in agreement. I agree. I think if they beat Akami, then it's on. If they lose to Akami, I actually think almost mathematically it's going to be almost so difficult. So, I think they need to go on a little snowball after this Noble one. As for Knights Ferox, this was touched on very briefly when we went into this schedule. I, for whatever reason, think this might actually be closer than the rest of you do.
No.
Because I think Ferox have earned the respect based off of their win against Akami, 7-3. Not only that, but their performance against Noble was really good. Like, it was like 5-5, or it definitely was 4-4 at one point.
It was close. Yeah, it was close.
The difference was that Noble just pulled away and won like 2-3 rounds in a row, and that was it.
Yeah, they won 3 of their last 4 attacks.
Yeah, they got the great boy Oda, more fans than any other team combined. They look really good. I thought Nazgul was really, really good. Really impressed me. In fact, probably was the best player for Ferox in at least Playday 1 from what I saw, and was still really good for Playday 2. So the new players are doing really well. They've already picked up a big scalp. This is a chance to, if they beat Knights this week, they could be the 3rd best team in Oceanic Nationals, which is crazy to even think about. And I know you guys are sitting there like, whoa, that's a big statement, but like,
You've made some bold ones tonight, man. I don't think we're surprised.
but hear me out, right? Like 5-7 against Noble, you beat Akami, you beat Knights. Yeah, they probably won't beat Wildcard, but like, it's the same mantra I gave to Noble before. Where else do they lose? So this is a really big test for them. They lose this, they definitely stay in the middle of the pack. I definitely have them making playoffs now after they beat Akami. Whereas I think at the beginning of the season, I think we all agree it was certainly a feeling that Ferox could be in the bottom 2. I think we all can agree now that's no longer the case unless they just capitulate from here. So this is a big matchup, really, really big matchup. Now, do they win it? I did tip Knights. I think Knights will win, but I would not be shocked at all if Ferox do win this one. And I think this could be the one that goes to OT.
Mishka, if you're listening, I originally had Ferox on my tip. So I don't have them now, but I think I agree with Xenox on a lot of those points. This series is going to be a lot closer than we've actually been talking it out to be.
Yep.
And I think that if this series hits overtime, definitely wouldn't be surprised. And I think that Ferox are a team that you cannot underestimate. They are the team. They are the team this season that you cannot underestimate.
Like I don't know the snowball predictions, but I wouldn't be surprised if no one voted for them. And yeah,
no one did. No.
It would probably be the closest game where all 7 predictors chose one side. So
last week.
The one thing heading into this matchup is, for me, probably the map veto is going to play a big role in how this one plays out. Knights, they've only played Cafe. Ferox, they've only played Villa. I think that Knights
Clubhouse
probably have
The holy
Yeah,
trinity of
probably.
ANZ Siege.
In all seriousness, though, I think Knights would have the confidence to actually take Ferox on Villa. I am still not very convinced that Ferox's performance against Okami was amazing, and they did lose to Noble. If they watch that VOD back, there's a lot there that they can pick apart the Knights if they put in the time, and they will be expecting particular things from Ferox if they head to Villa.
Yep.
So, which means, like I said, there could be some weird curveball that gets thrown up. We could go to some crazy exotic map outside of the Holy Trinity, and who knows what will happen there. That's where I think it will be closer. But if it does go to Villa or Cafe, I think Knights should pretty comfortably take it, to be honest.
And I don't disagree with Guz at all here. And I definitely agree. And I kudos to you for even bringing up the maps and going that little bit in depth. That's my little.
Yeah, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for. Because you don't have that brain capacity.
He's just the pretty face man. When we did talk about this,
he's just there for the sexy plays. That's all.
Basically all me and Rob were brought in for. Anyway,
the beards.
so
The beards, yeah.
the beards. Yeah, I definitely agree with you there. And obviously, we've all chosen Knights to win this, and I would just say that we'll all have egg on our faces once again for the second week in a row if Ferox do win this. And at that point, then it's sort of like, well, how do you not tip them for their remaining matchups besides just wildcard? Like at that point, they would have to play.
Well, they have Rhythm
Elevate,
next, so we're probably going to tip them there.
Well, I definitely tipped them against Rhythm, Elevate, and then there's wildcard. So an LFO.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's a pretty easy run home for Ferox.
I hope Mishka's already. I hope Mishka's already prepared the second meme choice.
Mishka doesn't know what he's doing.
Poor Mishka.
I'm telling you now. I'm telling on you.
I'm gonna close with two points. I wanna also echo Guz's thing about the map veto. I think that's gonna be an important part. I think if it goes to a more structured map like Clubhouse, Knights are gonna get that because I just don't think Ferox have that kind of play style. But if it goes to a looser map, Knights can also play quite loose. Like Knights can totally double down on the way. Coastline would be a great map, I think, for these teams because I think they both have
hectic map.
They would both have a similar play style on a map like Coastline, and that can make some unpredictable
I could see
results.
that going to OT. I could see that going to OT on Coastline.
I agree.
Yeah.
And
So
honestly, I think this is the map like that we all want to see. Like, I think this is the map that I would be like the most excited to see go to OT.
Yes,
the map or the
PDH.
match.
Match map. Like,
that being
whatever,
said, look, I'm looking back really quick now at the Knights map history. They have not played a lot of Coastline, so probably not gonna. I mean, maybe not gonna come out, but maybe it will. I would love to see Coastline. Trying to think of other loose maps at the top of my head, but most of them are structured these days. Like I think Consulate would be a Knights map through and through. Clubhouse probably Knights as well. Even Cafe can require a lot of structure, so I don't know.
I can confidently say that no team in ANZ has played Oregon. So
I know.
Oregon's super structured though, so Knights.
Yeah.
Ferox will probably insta-ban Oregon.
I just want to see it once this season, man. It's actually like my favorite map in the game.
I said every veto. Please,
I want to
if
see
the
more
teams are
theme
watching
park
this,
too.
send us to Oregon.
Oregon
I miss
theme park. All right. Well, I think that's
Theme park provided some bangers last season.
That's just only one play day for next week done.
You guys talk too much.
Look at
another one.
We have another play day to go through.
Also, another set of games that Xerox
We're gonna have to wrap this up before
the.
We're gonna have to wrap this up before the actual broadcast starts for Playday 3.
I'm gonna go tech run soon.
We're blurring lines of predictions here, so we are kind of crossing over into the next segment anyway. But
yeah,
I will quickly go to a break, and then we'll be back with Playday 4 for the preview. Excellent. All right, I will bring up the next Playday schedule. Playday 4.
You were supposed to do that during the break.
I couldn't do it during the break because the source was active and like I had to production stuff, mate. All right.
All I'm hearing
Doesn't-
are excuses,
doesn't
mate.
matter. It doesn't matter, right? Like we've got the graphics here, so I think you guys are just being fussy.
I mean, Xenox has been the fussy one this cast. He was worried about his camera placement at the start. Like,
Didn't stop touching his hair. Or his
I haven't
light.
touched my hair once today.
Today,
How
like,
does
at
it
all.
stay? How does it stay
how
so
does it
nice?
stay so like, yeah?
How much gel do you use?
He's just born with it, bro. That's what it is.
Out of the womb.
Now I'm
Maybe
just
it's
picturing.
Maybelline.
Now I'm picturing
Oh.
that. Now I'm picturing that Xenox just sleeps standing up, like he doesn't lay down because of his hair.
He
Don't
can't
worry.
mess up the hair.
I'll have the hair ready to go for tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, I'm sure
Alright,
you will.
let's
Let's get into these. Let's
breeze through Playday 4. I think there's also, I'd say 3 of these games look like they could be pretty exciting, but the first one might be a little one-sided. I don't know. Maybe not though. You're saying that LFO, if they get the victory
I'd
against
say 2
Okami,
games.
they might make it.
All right, I'm just gonna bring up a point here because we've been talking about predictions a lot in this one. So Raven has said this game is gonna be one-sided. Only 2 people have actually tipped Okami for this game. Raven's one of them. Xenox is the other.
Are you serious?
The rest of us have all tipped LFO.
What are you doing, Guz?
Oh, yeah,
for real?
shit.
Are you
no.
for real? No way.
Wait,
Yeah.
hang on. So 5 people have tipped LFO.
Yes.
I think I really just tipped that off the
Wow.
fact that Ferox played really well in Villa and Okami played really bad. But yeah, I mean, in hindsight, I probably shouldn't have
Wow.
tipped LFO.
I
No,
look
because
at
you
that.
do
If I
not
look at
doubt yourself,
if I look at
Guz.
that now, I see an Okami win unless LFO pulls something out of somewhere, especially in
Just
the
have some
veto.
faith, bro.
Shaking
Have
my
back
head.
up your tip.
Oh,
Can I change my tip? Is it too late?
I think it is.
It's too late now because it's all public. So
It's not public yet.
Yeah, it's
public-
not. Sure.
it's
sure.
public
he just
tomorrow,
said it. He
but, like-
just said it.
But I've said it. It looks bad if you
Alright.
rescind it, but like,
Oh,
Alright.
LFO will win. I have faith.
Okay.
yeah.
They'll still get relegated, but I have faith.
Okay, so
Jeez, dude.
the biggest talk around this matchup, and we spoke about it at the back end of Playday 3, is that if LFO are to make playoffs, they've got to win this game. I think there's so much importance on this, which I think will be the storyline that I hope Raven and Rob talk about, is that when we look at the predictions and it does say 5 people have chosen LFO, I think a large reason for that, and I almost did choose LFO because I was sort of like, well, at some point they're going to have to get a win, right? And if they don't win this, they'll be 0-4, which is just diabolical compared to how they played in Six Masters. So it almost feels like the win that's due, like they're meant to have it, but that's unfair to Okami, who in my eyes are going to be looking at this week's Playday, both 3 and 4, as a redemption week, and that they can get back to the Okami with that we know, and they should get the job done. And if they don't beat LFO, then it's almost like a role reversal. Then they're the ones that look like, well, hello, what's going on with Okami? So
yeah,
you can't just tip them just because they're supposed to be due a win, and they definitely should not be rocking up with that mindset that it's like, oh well, we faced the tougher teams, this should be, you know, easier, and we're due for a win. It just can't be that way. But I can understand why a lot of people have tipped them, but Okami to win this 7-5.
I see. I think this game for me is a case of these are the 2 teams for me that underperformed the most in week 1, and so I think there's still a lot from both of these teams that we are yet to see. And I think that if the veto goes the right way, LFO can take this. Like they've been known to surprise, and I think that if we can see the Mims of old, if we can perhaps have a week where I just don't flame Nate for apparent reasons. I feel like this is a game that is so incredibly winnable for LFO. Do I think it's going to be close? Absolutely. Do I think it's going to be close? Do I think Okami has a chance of winning this? If I had to tip this game at the start of the season, I 100% would have taken Okami.
Yeah.
But I think that last week's results have put enough doubt in my mind that this is a very, very, very winnable game for LFO.
Well, that makes it all that more exciting. Look, I'm looking forward to it. It is definitely, this is the night that Rob and I will be casting, and I think a lot of these games do show a lot of promise. Knights and Noble, I think, is probably the match of the night, I would say.
Yep.
I think this is going to be quite a solid game. I would not be surprised if this one is an overtime.
Is this?
I mean,
the
it's a
game?
rematch of the Six Masters
Don't even
playoffs.
say it, guys. Don't even
Is
say
this
it.
the game? Is this the game? Question mark,
What I will
question
say,
mark.
if Noble do win this, I guarantee you will all come my way and say, yeah, they probably won't lose. That is the
No,
question.
I stand by my statement till the
If
end of the
Noble
season.
win this, do they go undefeated in the regular season?
No.
I don't think so. I don't think there's any series of games that where Noble like wins, like they beat X team and then they back that up with like
Honestly,
Is
to
this-
do wildcard.
Is this their hardest matchup for the remainder of the season?
I'd say
On
yes.
paper,
we-
maybe, but I honestly would not be surprised if Noble go flawless until the final play day and lose then. Complacency.
alright. I mean, I don't mind being
Yeah,
wrong.
but then,
for
but then I'm
several
right and you're
weeks.
wrong, which is the only thing I care about in life. So that is that.
Who has Noble got in the final? Oh, I haven't even updated the names for these. They're still on the old ones. Hold on.
I can guarantee you one thing.
They've got
about this
Elevate
game.
in the final week.
I can tell you one thing about this game, Xenox, and that is if Noble lose, Brendan from ESL will have on file the clip of you saying that they will go flawless the rest of the season. So
Yes. Can we then play the clip of me saying Noble will lose a map straight after it? Like, is that possible? Can we have some discussions with ESL on this one? Or...
No,
That would
you
be
know
good.
what? I think it's good fun. I think it's good fun to say things like this. You know, Rob
Oh,
obviously
yeah,
did
of
it with the
course,
ARG. I'm waiting for that ARG boot, by the way. But
Just one?
My prediction for this is Noble will win this matchup. I like Knights. I like where they're at. I like their style. Love them. I think Sejon is nuts. I still miss Strider, but they lose this one 7-5.
Yeah.
7-5.
I mean,
okay.
realistically, yeah.
Yeah, that's a very real with your analysis.
By the
of
way,
this
if
game.
this was playoffs, I'd actually have tipped Knights. And
I'm
that's a
picturing-
worry for Noble.
I'm picturing right now.
they're just the perennial chokers. Like,
Oh, jeez.
Just to go to
You
predictions.
can't say that.
Is this the one that's the
I
most...
don't know. I think there's enough stats to back that up, man.
Ducky, is
I
this
think
the
it's
most
gonna be-
split? Is this the most split in predictions? Like,
No,
surely this is like a
everyone is
4-3.
tipped Noble. The most split game in predictions is the two Akami games, 5-2.
Wow. I'm
Yeah.
gobsmacked. I thought this would have really like split the pack, but
No, everyone is tipped.
See,
So
everyone's just
in-
going to
in-
tip Noble. Everyone's going to tip Noble for the remainder of the season. Oh, yeah.
If Noble had,
Everyone is
if
going to
Noble
tip
didn't beat
against
Wildcard,
Noble.
Jesus.
if Noble didn't
everyone's
beat
gonna tip-
Wildcard, it would have been split. If Noble
I
didn't beat Wildcard.
I think Guz is just going to, out of spite, tip against Noble for the rest of the season. Like, I think that's what it's coming to.
Like I said, if they're undefeated until the final week, I will tip Elevate. 100%. 100%.
all right.
Yeah.
Rhythm
Alright, next
Ferox
match.
though. Yeah, Rhythm Ferox. I think Ferox are gonna prove too strong. I think this has the chance to be close, but maybe like a 7-5. But I think
Yeah.
Ferox is still gonna take it.
It's the question of, did what we see in week 1, was that the peak of Ferox, or is that only the beginning of Ferox?
Mm.
Because if that was the peak of Ferox, this is entirely a game that Rhythm can win. But if that's only the beginning of Ferox, Lord have mercy.
Yeah, I think we'll know more after the Knights match. If the Knights match is like super one-sided and Verox don't really show up to where we kind of expect them to, then I could see Rhythm really pushing them here. If Verox beat Knights, and I think the momentum high that they'll be on will just make Rhythm look like Kanga of old. So, it's the way that it was sort of a Playdate 2 last week is that you kind of want to see the Playdate 1 result first before you
Yeah, I
know
get
more
that.
about it. But Ferox should be winning this regardless of what happens against Knights. Like if they don't win this, it's a choke, and that's just the nature of it.
100%. Ferox dub. Lock it in.
And if they do win this, is that how many wins have they got right now? They only got the one.
They've only got the one, but like
So they'll
like
put
I,
them
like,
at-
I, like I said at the
They-
top, it's been like
This could be the match that secures them finals. So
Yes.
there's even more on the line here.
yeah.
if they
So
beat Knights.
it's a case of because it's top 6 teams and there's 8 teams overall. You're looking at like even a team that goes 2-5 but has a decent map differential will make it into playoffs. So if you've got 2 wins, you can be relatively confident that you're going to make playoffs. If you get 3, you're locked.
Yeah.
Wait, so in this, what do the bottom 2 have in terms of wins? Like 1 and 0 or something?
Well, yeah. If it's they can be drawn with a team that's 2-5 but just have better win, like better round differential.
Yeah.
Or it could be like a 1-6 and a 0-7 team as well.
All right, let's move on to Wildcard Elevate then to wrap this up because I think
Yeah.
this week's, this Playday is, the last 2 games are a little bit more one-sided here. Wildcard versus Elevate. I think everyone would have tipped Wildcard. It's a tough one for Elevate, and they're probably in the same boat that LFO was for week 1, where they're just going to want to try and put up like a 7-4, 7-5 sort of performance, and just hope they don't get swept like 7-1, 7-2.
Yeah, look, I wouldn't be surprised if this is a little more closer, because like, look, I'm just looking at the results from last season's 6 Masters, which we know was terrible for Elevate. They went 7-5 on Consulate with Wildcard. Like, that was close, and that was when they were like in a pretty dark spot. So, I think Elevate have the potential to take the Wildcard game, but it's just about
pick them.
What? No, I didn't. But it's about what Elevate roster shows up, because I think jury's out on their consistency so far. Like, they've looked better, but I want to see.
We've spoken about debutants. What's everyone's thoughts on Hotshot? Because I wasn't too.
It was not a hot
overwhelmed.
I think he was the weakest out of all the debutants.
I'd like to see, who are they playing in Playday 3? I completely forgot already. Akami. That's a really good matchup there. I'd like to see Hotshot stand up there and learn a bit from the wildcard game. And then for the remainder of the season, I'd like to see Hotshot get more involved, because there's some really good players on Elevate's team. And if Hotshot can come on like they hope he does, then by the end of the season, maybe they can avoid bottom 2. Which I put Elevate right now in that battle with LFO for the second last spot.
I think one thing as well to mention is that Elevate had a strategic coach jump on as well. So against a team like Wildcard, that will probably prove pretty critical, because Wildcard are arguably the most structured team in the region. If they can bring that sort of big brainness, if you would, into that matchup, they might stand a chance if they can actually stick to what they plan to achieve in that map. Again, still going to be very challenging, but I mean, it's not entirely impossible to see Elevate maybe headed to overtime if they're on their in form on that day.
Yeah. For me, Jury is still out on Hotshot as well, but I'm not that concerned, because his main roles was like hard support. So he was playing like Habana.
Yeah, he's a hard support. Yeah.
And Smoke as well. And it was noted that he is taking over quite a bit of IGL responsibility to help the team with like IGLing, so that Vast has less pressure. Personally, and as much as I love the bloke, the bigger red flag for me on Elevate is Digital, because he had a terrible Playday 1. Absolutely awful. That was probably his worst Playday I think I've seen him play. And then even the rhythm game, he was still a little bit shaky. And I think Digital for me is so much more pivotal for them. Pivotal? Yeah, whatever.
Pivotal.
For them to be succeeding, because he's on some pretty important roles. So on attack, he's playing a lot of soft breach. Buck, the vertical play, is really important in some of the maps. Like, they played Cafe and Coastline, 2 incredibly important maps of verticals. And it didn't feel like he was having a massive impact on those. So he's also quite a vocal player for that team. So if he's not having a good game, that can be tough. If you're the person that's meant to be vocal and bringing people up, if you're trying to deal with your own issues and you can't get in the game, it can be really hard to do that with the team vibe. So I think Digital just needs to find some consistency and confidence as well, and then I might feel more comfortable about how Elevate might perform. But yeah, I think there's definitely still consistency issues overall with that team that do make it tough. But I think at their best, this would be a pretty good game. I could see this potentially even go to overtime depending on the map as well.
I just hope Elevate bring out.
Elevate's the kind of team that in the final week they'll beat the Osler Snowball. Like, you could easily see that happening.
They'll get redemption. They'll get redemption for Pro League Season 10. Raven knows what I mean.
Yeah.
By doing the impossible in the last week.
I think that if Elevate can keep up the strats that they know that are strong for them and not kind of double fake themselves out, like they did against Rhythm, I think this is a definitely a winnable game. I think they've just got to back themselves, because I think if the first 2 Playdays have shown anything for that squad, it's that God Legion and Worthy can be one of the best, like some of the best in this region. And if they back themselves, and if Digital has a good game, and if they can have Vast and Hotshot just kind of anchor down the fort, there is potential for this to be one of the games of the season.
Yeah, I think pointing out that Worthy as a secondary is a good point too, because just looking at his stats, 80% cost in that overtime game. And then if I quickly go to their other game, if CCG will load quick enough for me, please.
I can have a look for you.
You already have it open, do you? I got it here.
I'm just loading it now. So Worthy's cost in that game was 67%.
Okay,
which
so
was
not-
highest on
not
10.
as great.
Well,
But yeah, still,
whoa.
still good.
Get it away. Get it away. Get it away.
Oh, my
What
cursor!
is-
I was like, what are you on about?
I was so confused.
Me too. Wait, I want to try and get it.
Come
in space
on,
again.
that
Just
was a
tickle,
good
tickle
one.
his beard, tickle his beard. Give him a tickle.
Get it away.
But look, yeah, I think Worthy is showing to be a great secondary player, and he was not having a very consistent Six Masters either, and which was his first season with the team. So it's a good sign for them early here that two pretty influential players are seemingly playing consistent. 3, if you want to include Vast in that, who's playing a bit of a flex support role. So yeah, I just think this could be a really good game. I just hope that like the strong Elevate team shows up and not what we saw more of in Six Masters.
Pro League Season 10 Elevate comes alive. Oh, 11 comes alive.
Yes.
Yeah, not 10.
exactly.
Not 10.
Not 10. 11.
Look, 10 was good too. 10 was good too.
Was. Not
Unbelievable.
ultimately. Sorry.
All right.
Yeah.
Too soon.
I actually, just sidestep there, I actually had on Facebook a 1-year memory reminder of the standings the week before the final week where we were on top. On top of Fnatic and everything. Like, I cried.
Feels bad. Feels bad.
Anyway,
This is
What
why you
could've been?
became a caster.
this is why I became a caster.
Don't have to feel
So,
the pain of loss.
We'll just move into the predictions, which is basically all I want to do is this. Let's just recap where we're at. Who's on top? You can leave out Xenox's name because I don't want to know where he is right now.
Alright, so currently who's on top is me for top number of losses in predictions. So in the Snowball Esports Expert panel predictions, we have got Dev, Marta, and Xenox with 6 games won. That's 6 out of 8 from week 1. We've got a 3-way tie at 5 with Raven, Guz, and Manic. Sky is at 4, and I am at a hot 3.
So you see,
I had a wonderful week.
you see
3 from 8 games, mate. That's
over.
that's rough.
Yeah, I think, you know how Dev was saying he's going to go for the wooden spoon? Maybe I should just go for the wooden spoon now. Be more fun that way. I can be that outlandish predictor that, like, becomes all God
The
almighty.
kiss of death. You're the kiss of death.
Yeah, I'm Caliber Jacob 2.0, mate.
I like it. I like
Get rid
it.
of him.
Fantastic. Well, I don't know. That's I think that's all we really need to do for predictions because we've gone over all these games. We've talked about who we think's gonna win and lose. We even talked about like the overall standings at the end of the season, who we think's making playoffs and who's not. So I guess is there
Talked
anything
about
else?
that last week. You can go watch the VOD.
Yeah, exactly. Is there anything else that you guys want to add about these matches, the weeks coming up, predictions, anything like that?
If you want a more like in-depth look, at least from my perspective, into the predictions, I've done a piece up on Snowball Esports, which you can read now, about what you should look forward to this week. Also, all these guys' tips will be coming up in a graphical form tomorrow on socials before the games kick off. So if you're a bit lost about what everyone picked, you'll be able to follow it not only before the games, but also during the broadcast.
Beautiful. And this is the point where we will say goodbye to Ducky before we close the show. So Ducky, feel free to do all your final plugs. People are looking for more of your stuff and more of the work that you're doing around Oceanic Nationals. Where would be the best place people could go?
Yeah, so the best place you can definitely go is, well, 2 places. One is snowballesports.com. Obviously, very grateful to team up with Ubisoft again to help create some great ANZ Siege coverage for Oceanic Nationals. We had a ball doing it for Six Masters. You can go catch up on interviews that we've done with the likes of Digital and Specker and Vincia. Those are all on the website, as well as predictions and other things that you'll see throughout the season. Myself personally, my Twitter handle is Do I Get It Right This Time? Is it here? Yes,
is
I'm
there. Good
good.
job.
I'm good. I've been practicing. It's Daviki_, where you can see me tilt at when my tips go wrong and praise my teams when they go right and other things. But yeah, thank you so much for having me on again, guys. If you need another host when Manic decides to not rock up again, you have my number. And yeah, I had a ball much like last week and this week again.
Good man. Look, it's been a pleasure having you back on as well. Always good to hear your insight. I'm sure Xenox loves to be able to counter the things that you say, so probably you get a look in every time Xenox is on, that's for sure.
Look, we seem like we're at each other's throats, but you know what? Afterwards, we'll do a COVID-friendly bro hug. You know, that's where it's at with us.
That's how it works.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's exactly
I can't get too close to him though. He lives in Melbourne.
Yeah, you're nice and safe over on the West Coast, mate. So I think
Yes.
keep it that way. All right,
Next
well,
lane. Next lane.
thanks again, Ducky. We'll catch you next time. We're just gonna quickly do a short break, and we'll be back to close the show afterwards.
Cara, você não tá entendendo. Isso é hoje, aqui. A gente tem que ir lá.
It's a heartbeat, a pulse, a distant vibration. It's a surge, a rush, the raw of a nation. It's nothing you could have predicted, but everything you believed in. It's nothing you expected, but everything you have achieved. It's nothing you could have trained for, yet everything you would have wanted. It's bigger than you could have imagined, yet everything you always needed. It's everything you achieved, everything you cared about. It's everything you accomplished, everything you cheered for. It's in every strategy planned, in every inch you gained. It's more than gaming. It's more than just support. It's sharing.
Sitting in the center here, coastline in open area. But they all know he gets taken down. So quick from the defense. Through there, they're both on the site. It's gonna run the corner, finds one kill. The second one goes down.
Share every moment. Share every action. Share every emotion. Share every struggle. Share every success. Every triumph. Yeah, share it with your friend, your family, your teammates, your people, your country. Share the unforgettable.
All right, welcome back to us. We are going to be ending the show now as we've gone through everything. But before we do that, guys, is there anything that you wanted to quickly talk about before we wrap it all up?
Don't know what Xenox is doing to his mic there, but of course, last night, R6 share, there was some more developments. All the teams currently in the program were shared alongside the tiers. We also saw some of the skins that I think it's 8 teams in tier 1 we'll be getting, and then alongside that, we're waiting 8 teams or 10?
It's 10 teams for
10 teams in tier 1.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then we're still waiting for the actual. They might actually just have been released. I'm not too sure. For the other 2 tiers actually in game, so make sure you go get those. More specifically for us here in OCE, it was Pittsburgh Knights. He found themselves in tier 2 and then Elevate in tier 3, which is really exciting news for those guys. Of course, 30% of the revenue made from those items goes directly to the players. Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's really massive for those guys who've been, a lot of them grinding out, some of them since the actual very inception of Pro League. So that's really big news for them.
Huge news. Yeah, it's a really big deal. So it's a great thing for those 2 teams. And as you said, there are some people on those teams that have been playing this since day one, like competitively for a long time. So I think it's a really great thing. So keep an eye out for when their specific skins will drop, because it is only the tier 1s that are dropping soon. Not sure.
Oh, is it? Wait, is it only tier 1 that is dropping?
I believe so. Isn't that what was in the announcement? Maybe I was wrong.
Oh, maybe you are right. I'm not sure. Okay.
I might be wrong.
There you
We'll
go.
see. Either way, it's an exciting thing. All esports microtransactions, I should say, count towards helping the teams in the R6 share program. Certain things contribute towards prize pool, and then some money goes to those orgs. And then, like you said, the actual microtransactions for those teams, so like their skins, as you said, it does go directly to help those players. So it's a really cool thing. So once you see them in store, get around it, because yeah, you're doing a great deal for those players' livelihoods, especially the ANZ teams. Great, awesome. Well, I guess I may as well roll for the giveaway. Everyone's hanging out to see who's going to win this. Guz seems to think that he's the one that's in for the chance to win, so
100%.
I'm going to say that's not the case, but we will see. Here we go. Rolling. It's going to come up in chat. Uncooked Toaster has won the giveaway.
No,
so...
he's one of my viewers. So I
you
indirectly
go.
won. I'll claim it.
Oh, right. Claiming the victory.
Yeah.
Look, Uncooked Toaster, I'll DM you via Twitch or Twitter or something. I will find you, mate, and I'll sort that out. So, congrats. Now, I think that's pretty much everything. So, thanks again for you guys joining me on the show. Had a ball. I think there's a lot of clippable moments that we will revisit. Oh my god!
If I have to.
Look, I tell you what, you're gonna cop a mouse cursor.
Let's be real.
You're gonna cop a mouse cursor
everyone's here to
against
see
Xenox.
Xenox. Everyone's here to see Xenox's sexy player of the week. It is what it is.
I love it. Beautiful. Well, you can catch up on past episodes on Rainbow Six ANZ on Twitch and YouTube. We are uploading regularly on a weekly basis. We'll be back here on Tuesday nights every time, 8:30
I'll be
PM.
back next week. I'll be back next
AEST.
week.
Of course you
But
are.
after
You're
that,
the star
I'm
of the
gonna have a bit
show.
of a break.
Star of the show, Xenox.
Are we on
Lord help-
tomorrow night?
Lord help
though?
me. Lord help me
guys?
tomorrow night. Jesus.
Nice.
Oh my
Yeah,
God.
Lord, yeah,
I have to work with this man for like 4.5 hours tomorrow night. Oh my god.
Gas yourselves up for tomorrow. Why should we watch you guys cast Oceanic Nationals tomorrow?
Because we actually know how to predict the games. Simple as that.
There we go. Apparently that's enough reason for you guys to want to tune in. So look, Oceanic Nationals is back tomorrow night. It's been in the ticket all night. We've talked about it all night, basically, starting from 7 PM AEST. Tune in earlier, though, because you'll be able to catch legacy matches from Six Masters, as well as some cool little things happening. And then you'll get to hear these guys talk for a little while before the first game starts from 6:45, something like that. But yes, I think that's pretty much it. If you want to find either of us on Twitter, our Twitter handles are all on screen, have been all night. I cannot do this either. Ducky has definitely perfected this more than I have, and so have you.
Wait, hang on, wait. There we go.
Hey,
That's over
nice.
there. That's,
Yeah.
that's Ravens, and then
Yeah.
that'll do.
Under the bus. I love it. All right. Well, look, thanks everybody again for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Like I said, we'll probably have another giveaway next week, so more the reason to tune in. But thanks
me
again
away.
for... Yeah, that's what I would love to do. So I tell you what, maybe we are going to give Xenox away next week because yeah, you can see what's happening here. All right, cool. Thanks everybody. We'll see you then.